you ask for a bribe, they'll come with a tape to say, this is a tape, how Sonko asked for a bribe. So you cannot rely on hearsay evidence when you are fighting such cases.
Sonko recently exposed a lady who allegedly gave him important information about various corruption cases. However, the woman asked the police department to ensure her safety, claiming that her life was in danger following tensions between her and Sonko. She claimed that Sonko had been pressuring her to be a witness in the case against Governor Anne Kananu and Judge Said Chitembwe, among others. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to issue the State of the Nation address Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui made the announcement during a meeting with the members of Parliament. The meeting will be held on Tuesday and not on the traditional Thursday, since MPs are expected to break for recess on December 2nd, 2021. It is anticipated that President Kenyatta will go through his regime's accomplishments as well as table his agenda for his final year in office. And the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has declared July 7th each year as the International Day for celebrating the Kiswahili language. This is expected to be highly commended, especially in Africa, where the language is widely spoken, as well as being the first language in the continent to have its own special day and recognized by the United Nations. According to the UN website, the decision was arrived at after its members agreed on the same during a conference organized at the UN headquarters in Paris, France. To date, Kiswahili is recognized as one of the official languages of the African Union and is the official language of the East African Community and the African Parliament. Now, the Ministry of Health is expected to launch another mass vaccination exercise against COVID-19 Friday this week for a period of 10 days. According to COVID-19 Vaccination Task Force Chairperson Willis Ahwale, the government must achieve its goal of vaccinating 10 million people by the end of the year. The activity will take place in churches, health centers, matatu termini, among others.
Let me actually state clearly that our target is 10 million vaccinations by end of December and 26 million fully vaccinated end of 2022. Currently, we are at 6.4 million vaccinations. So if we start doing 100,000 per day for the next 30 days, and you add to the 6.4, we are very close to 10 million vaccinations.
Others who will be targeted for the vaccine are children between the ages of 15 and 17 who will be vaccinated using the Pfizer vaccine.
At the moment, we are going to start with our vaccination centers. The teenagers can walk in with their guardian, they give verbal approval, and they get vaccinated. As we move ahead, we will work with the Ministry of Education and see better strategies to reach them, because we must know that they are the main carriers of the virus. They may not be sick, but they cause the suffering of the elderly people.
Now, Festus Musyoka, DCI officer who was wounded after being shot in the neck in a bar in Thika in Nairobi, has died. DCI boss Tarehe Police Station Daniel Musangi said the officer died while receiving treatment at Nairobi West Hospital. Musangi said that the main suspect in the case may be charged with murder following the incident on July 2nd. So far, the main suspect in the case, Dixon Janja Mararu, has not been taken to court 4 months after the incident, after police requested more time to complete the investigation. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto.
SpiceFM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation, because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Okay, so what does Wednesday morning have in store? It looks like traffic hasn't really started in most parts of the city today. But of course, what are we going to do? Keep an eye on things. Uhuru Highway, which normally causes a lot of issues going through the day. This morning, at least at this point, very, very free. Clear on Gong Road as well, heading into the city centre. What we are looking at in terms of a pickle is right around the Kamkunji roundabout and then spilling over to Haile Selassie. That has already started to slow down this morning. We're also looking at traffic on the Thika Superhighway, just a little bit there, that junction with Kiambu Road. and Jogo Road as well. Just a little bit there, going towards the Makadara train station. So you have some traffic this morning. It hasn't really gone too crazy just yet. It's a few minutes after 6 o'clock. We're going to see what's in store this morning for traffic, but I think we've started off really well today. Hopefully we can continue in that fashion. Don't forget, get in touch with us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
24th of November, yes, 2021. How are you doing this morning? Good morning. We're here.
Well observed.
That, you got to start somewhere. So we're here. Then one foot in front of the other. Then we continue. Good morning, Sisi. Good morning.
Good morning, Do. You are here.
Yes.
Because you're here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Further descriptions, Apana.
But it is suffice it to say that you indeed are here.
You can see me.
Not only are you visible, you are also visible.
Well done. Wanjiru, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well. We have the luxury of using language. How we use it
is that totally different story.
Whose edification and benefits is a different story.
Completely.
See, I'll say no more. I am well.
Good.
And I am compliant.
There are very many sectors through which you must be compliant. But I guess we will find out which ones we're specifically talking about.
Yes.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to the show today. This is The Situation Room with Kenya's biggest conversation. Here we are, Ndu Okoh, C.T. Muga, and joining us today, Wanjiru Gikonyo. Thank you for being with us today. It's been a minute, and nice to have you here. Eric Latiff is off doing things Devolution. The 7th annual Devolution conference starts in Makwene County today. And we'll be looking at a little bit of that in terms of news and what's making the headlines. But we're glad that you're joining us today. And as we get into things, we're going to be having quite a number of conversations today. What is in store for Kenya? How have things been so far when we are looking at the IMF program? How is that working for Kenya? Focus on COVID recovery. How has that helped? So we'll be looking at that today. We're going to be having a conversation later on with the group's CEO and managing director of KCB, Joshua Oigara. He'll be in the hot seat today. And then we will be looking at legal education in the country later on and seeing, all right, what strides are being taken to make sure that we are producing the best. And we'll have a conversation with Riara University. So a lot lined up this morning, and we'll invite you to be part of our conversation. We'll be saying hello to you in a minute in terms of who is online with us today. Not to forget that you can tune in wherever you are around the country on SpiceFM and online as well, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. That's where we are this morning. We'll say hello to you in a minute. But before we do that, let's take a look at what is happening with COVID-19 in the country and around the world. All right, 259,014,754. Those are the latest numbers that we're looking at right now. infections continue to rise. But what we are looking at now that is quite disturbing is the protests that are going on in several parts of the world, specifically Western Central Europe, where, you know what, there's been a lockdown that's been introduced. And we're not talking about semi or partial lockdown, complete lockdown, because there is worry that 500,000 deaths will be realized in the next 3 months if they don't do this. Suffice to say that we keep repeating it, but we're looking at the winter months. It's getting colder. Countries have said, you know what, we can't afford this. Germany, Austria, even smaller countries like Luxembourg. We're looking at the Netherlands saying, lock it down, because if we don't do that, the likelihood of this thing spreading and killing many more people is still very, very high. Encouraging people to go out and get vaccinated is still top of the agenda for many, many countries. Let's look right now what's happening in Kenya. After many days of 0 deaths, just yesterday, 2 deaths recorded in the country, 53 new cases from a sample size of 5,031. Still gives a low positivity rate for Kenya at 1.1%, which is a good thing. Been able to keep the positivity rate of COVID-19 in Kenya under 5% now, going on to 7 weeks, which is where you want to be. Speaking of now where we want to be in terms of vaccinations, they are available in the country. 10.7 million vaccines. 6.4 of those have been utilized. 9% of the population has been vaccinated. We heard in the news Dr. Hwale saying, you know what, we're trying. We want to get many more people vaccinated. The thing is, come out and get vaccinated. The question remains, why are we not coming out and getting vaccinated? They're available, so what's the problem?
And the question has always been, they are available, yes, but do people know the destination where they can actually get the vaccines? Because if you say they're all over the counties, where exactly? Has that information actually gotten down to everyone who needs to hear it? Because remember, this same story was replicated not with the vaccines, but with the registration exercise for voters. And the stories that we heard, yes, there were people who are registering, there were people who are verifying your voter, the validity of your voter position. However, the process was a little more convoluted than was presented. You present yourself there, you are told to go to some other venue. It was the clarity that was presented when it was first mentioned is not what people were experiencing. Now, there are places where people probably experience something smooth and something, but there were hitches. Now, remember, prior to all these vaccines coming into the country, we had a situation where people would keep going to try and see if they could find the vaccine, but they could not. You go here, they don't have it. You go, and then you want to talk about apathy. When somebody has done that for a week or two, what do you think they're going to do when you next tell them that the vaccine is available? They will not bother.
Siti, I'm totally with you because this social behavior is based on the experiences of last year.
Right.
About this is a difficult process. This is a process that is almost punishing. Linked to that, which age group is not picking up the vaccine? My suspicion is, and based on my personal interaction, because I ask people, are you vaccinated? Especially if we're interacting. And I find there's a young group that's not. You know, I was talking to my barber, talking to somebody, maybe riding a cab. There's high level of not going for the vaccine because of what Siti is saying. This impression that where do I go? Is it available? Will I waste time? Then the messaging around youth are not as vulnerable is possibly still there. So my question, has government continued to do its education to re-educate Kenyans? And then lastly is anti-vaccine mentality is quite real and it comes from many different corners. And how do you counter that? Do you counter that by forcing people to take the vaccine, by education, by incentives?
Well, I think definitely what we're looking at now is that it must be a combination of several factors, right? We saw the introduction of saying, look, get it done by December 22nd or from the 21st, rather. We will deny you government services, right? Many, many things being looked at now. We're going to take a break.
Illegal.
Well, Okay, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
We'll take a break.
Have our own demonstrations. They're demonstrating in where was it? Is it in Belgium?
Many places.
Yeah,
actually.
many places.
All over Europe.
Yes,
Right.
Kenya may be next to join.
Let's take a look at the weather. Come back and say hello to everybody, and then take a look at the newspaper headlines. We're at 17 minutes after 6 o'clock. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money is our money and my money is my money.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
Spice up your life. The
70
weather
degrees
with
and partly cloudy
Spice
conditions
FM.
in Nairobi, highs of 27, lows of 17 today. It's clear in Nakuru at 14, highs of 28. Back down to lows of 14, 11 with a low. In a clear Nyeri town, going to highs of 27 and at 10 degrees. Eldoret is clear, highs of 25 and lows of 10. Mombasa this morning, mostly sunny is what we'll see at 26. Sun's already out, going to highs of 33 and lows of 26. And in Malindi, sunny conditions at 26, highs of 32. Kisumu is 19 and clear, highs of 30 today, while in Kakamega, 14 degrees, quite cool this morning. It'll go to a warm high of 31, however, back down to lows of 14. Kampala is clear at 19, highs of 29 and lows of 16. And in Dar es Salaam, 26 and mostly sunny, highs of 32 and lows of 25. It's clear in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 11, while in Lagos, mostly clear conditions for now at 26, highs of 32. Kinshasa is raining at 23, highs of 31 and lows of 23. A bit warmer in Beijing going into early afternoon at 5 degrees, highs of 11 and lows of -2. It's mostly cloudy in Paris at 3, highs of 5 and lows of 1, while in London, clear conditions at 4, highs of 7 and lows of 4. Looking into New York, it's 2 degrees, still Tuesday night, coming into Wednesday. We'll see highs of 6 and lows of 0.
Have never sounded so good.
My favorite songs of the 1980s.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Wherever you're tuning in from this morning, Karibu Sana. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Okay, so number of you are online this morning. Good to have you in. So let's say hello to you. Adam Zakaria tuned in this morning from Kumasi in Ghana. Good to have you in. Landy Ziegler says good morning. Hello, Gikonyo. Okay.
Hello.
Wanjiru.
Hey, yes, I missed you guys.
So many things here that he's asking about. Miss Mungai, ambassador to Germany, Berlin, declined to receive the court order from Miguna. What are the legal complications? We're likely to have a conversation about that tomorrow. We'll wait and see. Denny Callow says, good morning. He's tuned in from Mbeya in Tanzania. 3 greats from East Africa, 5 top finalists, World Athlete of the Year. Hats off to each. Patrick Sang, and all the best to Faith Kipyegon. Indeed, athletes are doing a good thing. Peter Ongara says, good morning, present and stuck at the Lukenya railway station. Why? DJ C2 Muga, you know he's not going to forget that one. Ndu tuned in. Yes, Eric is out doing things. Devolution this morning. Robert Mbogo says hello and good morning from Kwale County. Good to have all of you in the room this morning. Asante Sana. All right, as we get things started off, CT Muga, today's proverb.
Indeed, we are still in the land of the Swahili. You know, there's I was stuck between two proverbs. And there was one, I read it, the interpretation was interesting, but I couldn't quite figure it out. As in, I understood what it was trying to say, but I still didn't get it. So I left it aside. So I chose a simpler one. Okay?
You didn't get the Swahili? Okay.
The meaning.
I got it.
The meaning somehow escaped me.
Okay.
So I figured now if I read this proverb, and then I'm supposed to try and explain it, I'm going to have difficulties explaining this one.
Okay.
Because I can't figure it out fully myself. Now, this one I can figure out. Okay? Asifuye mvua, the one who praises rain, imemnyea. Meaning, yes. Asif. Yes, asifuye. Yes. Anayemsifu mvua. Imemnyeshea. That is what it actually means.
The one who praises the rain
has been rained
Has been rained on.
Yes, but now the proverb reads, asifuye mvua, imemnyea. Yes.
Okay. Sawa. I am sure as we go into today, we will see how that proverb then is going to actually make more sense. Yes. Okay. So looking into the headlines, don't forget Standard e-paper for 20 shillings. You have access to quite a lot. All the stories making headlines, as well as access to 10 days of archives and other things, crosswords and Sudoku and many others. 20 shillings. You have the opportunity to be able to see what is going on. So Standard e-paper for 20 shillings, and you can subscribe to that and have the paper at the touch of your fingers. All right, let's see what's going on in the headlines. Many things where to start. Okay, I will start. Drama as robbers hit Equity Bank in Kisumu. Indeed, it was drama yesterday. This carried on page 3 of the Standard. Interesting pictures seen yesterday. A 4-hour shootout between police and armed robbers in a Kisumu bank ended in mystery after the thieves evaded arrest. After all the hullabaloo and drama, they were not caught. Gunshots rent the air as police officers sought to flush out 4 suspects believed to have been involved in an attempted heist inside Equity Bank on Angawa Street. But when the guns fell silent, there was no trace of the suspects. Police were left holding clothes that they believed the suspects might have changed them before disguising themselves as customers or bank staff. You know, this thing of watching movies now, do you see what's happening?
And getting ideas.
Can I read that again? But when the guns fell silent, there was no trace of the suspects. Police were left holding clothes that they believed the suspects might have changed from before disguising themselves as customers or bank staff. Have you watched this somewhere before?
Yes,
you know,
many
you
times. Apart from the 4-hour shootout,
right.
That one I haven't.
The thing
watched.
about the movie is you actually get to see the robbers.
Yeah.
You had seen them at some point.
It's just a movie. You've seen how they've come in. You've seen that whole drama. You watch it. This one, has anybody said they saw the robber?
Oh.
And there was a but there was a shootout.
And how do they know who was shooting who? And they said there were 4. How do you know there were 4?
If you didn't catch them.
Yeah, I mean, how do you know there were 4?
Who saw them?
Yes, the story
and how
is.
Did you know how they were
there
dressed?
was a man entered the bank with some brown paper bag, went to the teller, asked for money. The lady screamed, and then pandemonium reigned.
Let me give you some more details. It is unclear whether the suspects managed to escape with any money. Police said that they are still in the process of reviewing CCTV footage to unearth what could have transpired and also establish the identity of the suspects. The robbers had entered the banking hall moments after 11 a.m. under the guise of being customers before unleashing terror on the unsuspecting bank staff and clients. According to witnesses, a man holding a huge brown envelope had walked into the banking hall and drafted a note demanding money from a female cashier before all hell broke loose. The terrified staff screamed, resulting in a stampede as customers who were in the banking hall dashed for the exits. Another suspect hurled tear gas canisters. A suspect hurled tear gas canisters in the banking hall as they attempted to execute the heist by demanding money from the bank staff who hid behind their counters. Within minutes, the parking lot outside the bank and the street turned into a scene akin to a battlefield as police officers scrambled to respond to the theft with gunfire. So yes, they started to shoot. So that brings your question.
Where were they shooting?
Who were they shooting? Do you see now where your question has merits? Who were they shooting? They arrived in the parking lot shooting. Remember, inside there's what? Tear gas. And what? Screaming and demands. Police come, parking lot, shooting.
You know, that story still doesn't add up, huh? 4 men walked in the banking hall. That's what they say. But one of them had a brown paper bag.
Envelope.
Then one suspect then tossed a canister of tear gas.
Yeah, one of the robbers.
Yes.
No.
Obviously, it's one of the robbers. They came in disguise. They didn't come saying, I'm a robber. So they had a plan.
They walked in like customers.
Yes, intimidate. What impresses me, and what the story doesn't tell us, is how quickly the police came on scene. Because one,
I thought you were going to say what impresses you is that the robbers could come in disguise as
No. They responded to quickly. A distress call, and it seems they responded quickly. That they came in shooting when you have customers running out of the bank is very scary.
That bank is in the middle of town.
It's very scary. And then a 4-hour shootout, that is petrifying. That is petrifying.
No.
And as they were doing this, there were crowds that were forming in the street. It took almost an hour for them to gain access into the bank. The suspects held more tear gas canisters inside the hall to keep the officers at bay. So I don't know if they were shooting at the tear gas canister or if the robbers were there.
Just pause for a second and just consider what you have read. If this was a movie, it would be a horrible movie.
Telling you.
Not interesting, confusing. But then real life is often just that. It's confusing. That they were robbers, maybe. That the police responded quickly, yes, it is clear they did. But what was really going on, that is completely unclear.
But having said that, I'm thinking a shootout implies these guys were armed to the teeth, because obviously they also have tear gas canisters. So the preparedness of the robbers, the level of theft is also, that's very unnerving. When you get into more sophisticated crime, whether the police, it sounds like it was a bit bungled or not, we are also talking about more sophisticated crime.
Absolutely. Getting more daring and being able to do things like this.
11 a.m.
But there's been no mention whatsoever of any amount of money that went missing.
No, not yet. They're still checking it out.
And then these guys, and then how did they get out?
Well, this all ended at 2:30 p.m. when police ended the siege and claimed the suspects could have disguised themselves as customers and walked away. They're yet to figure out if any money had been stolen because they're still reviewing the footage. So maybe we'll know today.
Footage with tear gas.
Yeah, you had to wait for the smoke to die down. See.
Interesting.
It's 6:30 on the nose. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're having a look at what's happening in the papers. We're going to come back after taking a look at traffic and continue.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
There are thousands of jobs in construction and real estate waiting just for you. Listen to Double O Direct from 10 a.m. this Saturday on 94.4 SpiceFM, streaming live on standardmedia.co.ke. Jobs in construction and real estate, a special Double O Direct with me, Olivia Otieno, brought to you by Mabati Rolling Mills. MRM, 60 years of quality building solutions. Ukiweka, umeweka.
Okay, so what are we looking at? It has built up quite some on Langata Road today, getting out into the city. That's what we're looking at here. On Jogo Road as well, as you're trying to go towards Haile Selassie Avenue, that also has built up some. All right, on Mombasa Road as well, right around Imara Daima, in and outbound, quite some traffic in that area this morning, but actually nothing too crazy at this point. I think that's a good thing. Coming off the Thika Superhighway, then heading towards the Pangani underpass, some traffic there, as well as coming out of Westlands. Don't forget, bypasses, link roads, those are your friends. Let's use them this morning. We're looking at the Red Hill Link Road, good coming off of Westlands. Southern Bypass also looking very good this morning. Outer Ring, North Airport hasn't built up yet right now, so could be a good time to use that. Northern Bypass as well, always a good thing to use. Eastern Bypass looking very good. A few minutes after 6:30, we'll see what it looks like at about 7:30 when we're getting into traffic hour proper. Talk to us, guys. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127. Let's know what it looks like in your neck of the woods.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, still taking a look at what is happening. City?
What I'm looking at is not really that interesting.
Okay.
But I will read it nonetheless. Mobile lenders to reveal hidden fees in new rules. Remember yesterday we were talking about how the finding of the Competition Authority and how they mentioned very huge lenders in this country and how it is, according to their report, they have hidden charges in their mortgages to their customers. Huh? Now we're talking about mobile lenders. The borrowing, again, the Competition Authority says they will disclose interest and payment rate fees. Now let me read it for you. That's just the subtitle.
Mm-hmm.
Digital lenders will be required to disclose their full fees and penalties to the competition watchdog every 4 months as part of an effort to fix the problem of hidden charges. 73% of those who borrow from these lenders say they are not really clear about the charges.
Okay.
But you see, that doesn't mean that the lenders have not informed you. You may not be clear, but doesn't mean they haven't
But
informed.
they've told you.
Yes. The Competition Authority of Kenya said the mobile lenders will disclose interest charges, late payment, and rollover fees after investigation revealed 73% of the borrowers did not know the cost of their loans. That may not, I don't know how it is you don't know the cost of the loans, because usually, even before you get the money, you've already been told what it is you're going to pay.
Yes.
You are buying this money for this amount.
And you sign off on the same.
Yes. You've been told this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And you've even been told this is how you're going to pay it. The installments are this. So I don't understand this. That's why I said I will read it nonetheless. Okay? The competition watchdog says the disclosure will be implemented before June next year in the latest attempt to curb the steep digital lending rates that have plunged many borrowers into a death trap.
Can I?
Yeah. Yes, Wanjiru.
Yes. Now, the interesting thing with charges, this is a right that is being pursued on behalf of the borrowers. But the reality is Kenyans are borrowing and continue to borrow. So I'm looking at it from another angle, an article by The Star dated September 30th. In the second half, every second in 2021, Safaricom processed 300 overdraft requests to bail out its subscribers. The telco reports it disbursed 350 billion in the period through Fuliza. Overall transactions stood at 787 million in the period, up from 292 million in 2020. You must remember, Fuliza came into the market, I think, in 2019.
Yes, it did.
It has a lot of controversy in its background. If you remember, David D. wrote a very strong piece about the setting up of Fuliza because public resources were used and lent to commercial banks, KCB, NCBA, I can't remember the other bank, who then set up this service to support, these MSMEs and small enterprises to borrow cheaply. So the origins, of course, then it was branded. At that point, it was just a policy statement. It was then branded and became a commercial product.
Are we talking? You know where there are two here. There's M-Shwari and there's Fuliza because Fuliza is solely a Safaricom product. Yeah. So which one are we talking about here? Because Fuliza is a product created solely by Safaricom. And
by M-Pesa.
By M-Pesa.
Specifically.
Right. Through
so
M-Pesa.
M-Shwari is the one that is linked now to financial institutions like the KCB and NCBA,
and so
etc., etc. Right?
Yes.
The controversy that now came out later was that is Safaricom a telco or is Safaricom a bank or is it a financial institution?
Right.
Now, in this case for Fuliza, what we're looking at, and for me, I thought it was actually an indicator of how robust businesses are right now because they would rather take this money at midnight, do their business during the day, sell a little bit, earn a profit, return the money.
Right.
So for me, it was a process that is very clear, very clean. I don't see...
But on the point you're raising about the financing, Safaricom's other lending facilities, M-Shwari, KCB, M-Pesa, were launched in 2013, 2015, respectively. So the back financing of this lending facility is a matter that requires scrutiny because something happened in 2019 to make this more available to the market, right? Because these products were already there, except the Fuliza that now came up in 2019. So the back financing, by the way, Ndu, you may say it's Safaricom, but you have to look at because you underwrite these kind of loans. There's a whole arrangement that took place.
And also the understanding that Safaricom is not a bank.
Exactly.
Yes. So
exactly.
So they actually need a bank to be able to perform these functions.
Those deals need to be looked at, and the financing of those deals and the conflict of interest. That said, 2019 happened to be providential because then COVID hit. Who knows if Kenyans would have borrowed as heavily if business had continued as usual? There are some schools of thought that argue Kenyans are borrowing irresponsibly. I've heard that said by people who say, well, why are Kenyans borrowing expensively, irresponsibly? The other school of thought, or maybe the reality, is the World Bank tells us there are 2 million new poor in Kenya because of COVID. Job losses, collapsing of businesses, just the reality, forcing people to borrow to survive. And we are like government of Kenya. You borrow from Peter to pay Paul. So behavior of Kenyans is mirroring behavior of government taking short-term expensive loans. So we have a big problem.
You see, the question that I would ask is, okay,
yes,
all those statements having been made, not by you, by those who keep insisting that Kenyans are irresponsible, the options that they have, which ones are these exactly?
There you go.
Which option do you have to make a quote-unquote responsible financial decision?
Somebody wants, this isn't a question of trying to invest and thinking of whether I should invest in land or trees or grass. No, it is, am I going to survive today?
Yeah. Am I going to eat today?
It's not tomorrow, today. Yes.
In fact, I was listening to a podcast by some young lady that's talking about economic matters. And she was talking about politics and the economy. And she said politics is about leadership and responsibility and economy. And, I thought coming from she's possibly just a young graduate who's decided to set up a YouTube channel talking about economy. And she put it very well. And I thought I've never looked at politics as just about leadership and responsibility. We usually look at it as power contest. And and she actually went on to say, can businesses survive in this present economic environment? If the politics isn't right, businesses cannot survive. And so, going to what you're saying, the bad decisions of government are forcing Kenyans into survival strategies to survive. And our politics is what is ailing us. And unfortunately, these guys have started campaigns.
Well, they started
As
a while
Kenyans
ago.
are borrowing 700, 800 billion, these guys have started campaigns illegally. Illegally, because they are violating the constitution.
Okay.
And I don't mean to create apathy or to just disempower us by saying how badly these guys behave.
Oh, by the way, you are being polite.
At least for now.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking about assistance, the AG has moved to save Kinoti from imprisonment. Okay. Remember this whole kerfuffle where he, didn't show up and was given 7 days to present himself to prison for 4 months.
Quote.
No.
No. Remember, he was allowed to appeal.
He was allowed to appeal, but then he was given 7 days and 7 days to then present himself, upon which then he would be imprisoned.
Like that.
He did 7 days has not yet elapsed. I think we have 2 days to go. However, the police are looking into the mystery of an application filed by a lawyer without the DCI's consent. Attorney General Kihara Kariuki wants the imminent arrest of Director of Criminal Investigations George Kinoti for contempt to be stopped. Kinoti was last week sentenced to 4 months in prison for disobeying orders to release 7 firearms and ammunition belonging to businessman Jimmy Wanjiru. The AG wants the implementation of the orders issued by Justice Anthony Mrima last Thursday suspended pending the hearing and determination of his request. Kinoti is supposed to surrender himself to the officer in charge at Committee Maximum Prison, failure to which Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai is to arrest him. But the AG argues that the contempt proceedings were instigated against the wrong party, as the custody of civilian firearms rests with the Firearms Licensing Board. Mr. Kihara, who has hired lawyer Cecil Miller to argue the matter in court today, says Mr. Kinoti did not have any role in respect of civilian firearms. So, the firearms belonging to civilian Jimmy Wanjiru, it was not under the purview of Kinoti to have them released. He should have actually been addressing somebody else.
Okay.
The DCI has written to the Attorney General instructing them to write to Mr. Wanjiru's advocate and inform them to collect their firearms from the board. By doing so, the DCI has purged the contempt, according to AG Kihara. It is really not his responsibility. So all this hullabaloo saying that he should then be arrested because he did not come to court, he knew what he was doing, because it really was not his responsibility to then order that these firearms be released.
Who are the people who went to Jimmy Wanjiru's home to actually procure these firearms?
Yeah, but can I say something? The question here is the contempt of court. Because if the court has been erroneous in its determination, then the DCI should use the court to argue the case. But for the AG to intervene in a scenario where the executive arm of government routinely ignores court rulings, what are we saying? There is a separation of powers, and the judiciary is in place to hold the executive to account, actually to ensure actually compliance with rule of law. So it holds everyone to account, but it is the responsibility of the judiciary to ensure that the executive officers uphold rule of law.
The argument here is that, even after all this has been called contempt of court, responsibility in terms of who was supposed to release what, they're saying, it really is not even my job. So why then am I being called and then even the threat of imprisonment hanging over me? And it was not even my responsibility.
Was this case
this
not
firearms thingamajig is a department.
Yes. There's a board.
Yeah, but it falls. Who does it fall under?
Okay.
Because they are not an independent unit within the police force.
No.
Not in that sense. Who are they answerable to?
So he's shifting blame.
Yes.
My dear.
Because do they have the muscle,
themselves?
Yes, to go and arrest people, they do not.
Can I also add another aspect? What is the role of the Attorney General? Because here, principal legal advisor to the government, to represent government in court and such, and then the Attorney General shall promote, protect and uphold rule of law and defend the public interest. This Attorney General, or the Office of the Attorney General in Kenya, by the way, and this is a report of Parliament, which I've cited here before, has lost over $1 trillion. In fact, it's the figure $1 trillion. It might even be more. In Kenya shillings, due to mismanagement or weak cases, poor performance.
Wanjiru, those things aren't weak cases. Those things are deliberate.
Over $1 trillion. In fact, I'll look for that figure because it may be more. And to add the icing, because when we say the Jubilee administration has failed, and the president, Uhuru Kenyatta's administration has failed, is because Attorney General shall be nominated by the president with the approval of the National Assembly. So what I'm saying is,
are you saying he's stepping outside of his purview and that he should be focusing on other things?
The point I'm saying is, how can you have an informed discussion that will take you somewhere useful when you're working under a very incompetent regime that is just doing this kind of dramatics day in, day out?
That's the problem. 13 minutes to 7
really
o'clock.
Wasting our time.
We're going to take a break now and come back and continue looking at stories. 13 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is Kenya Speaker's Conversation.
Really?
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
What makes a man?
I had an advertising job that was toxic. It was difficult. I'm not saying the people were toxic. I don't think anyone is inherently toxic.
Don't ever let someone's perception of you become your reality.
How do we navigate through career, family, and life?
I was an average kid. I wasn't a poor student.
Examining what defines a man.
We derive our identity as men based on external factors, on things that people can be able to see.
A space for men to open their experiences and more. Starting Thursday, 18th November on the Standard Digital YouTube and Facebook page. Hosted by Eric Latiff.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, this resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel Nkericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Silvanus Martin, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Silvanus Martin, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile chuma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room. Kenya's biggest conversation.
102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
Okay, 10 minutes to 7 o'clock.
94.4.
What's going on in the papers today? Okay, Wanjiru, what do you have?
My turn. Okay. So, a story after my own heart by one Tony Sisule in the Standard. Counties seized power but have never fought graft or offered services. And the reason I love this story is because Tony does something a lot of Kenyans forget to do. He talks about the meaning or the objectives of devolution while acknowledging counties are corrupt. So what he says is that prior to devolution, immense power was accumulated by the presidency. And devolution sought to democratize that power by dispersing power. And I'll quote, a small cabal of people had a stranglehold on Kenyans akin to what American founding father James Madison warned. A society consisting of a small number of citizens who assemble and administer the government in person can admit no cure for the mischiefs of government. And therefore, there is nothing to check the inducements or sacrifice the weaker party or obnoxious individual. Yeah, flowery language is in essence saying this is the stranglehold government had. So the solution to that is to extend the sphere of the state so that disparate interests were greater, thus rendering them less likely to have a common motive to act in concert and invade the rights of other citizens. So devolution seeks to disperse this power to the local level. But then he goes on to say, even though we have succeeded in dismantling this imperial presidency to an extent, because BBI was seeking to claw back that power, this presidency has also violated the constitution in many cases and has held on to that power, corruption scandals like the health scandals and such, and using other maneuvers. But the constitution has succeeded in extending this power. But then he laments, most counties have not made effort to improve services or to create a conducive environment for business, people to thrive. Corruption among county officials, wasteful resources on travel and other profligate spending have denied Kenyans the services they demand, such as well-remunerated healthcare personnel and supplies to ensure preventative and curative health services of a high standard. So he says, devolution has achieved the primary purpose of disaggregating power away from the center to make it more difficult for factions to oppress Kenyans. However, curbing corruption and inefficiency, increasing allocation of shareable national revenue to counties is still a task to be handled. So he's giving a holistic view. So I wish that every time we are looking at counties, looking at these corrupt governors, MCAs and all of that, we remember we must defend devolution, but we still have to struggle with corruption and lack of service delivery. So I love this story.
Speaking of corruption, on the back page of The Nation, Kenyans could pay 80 billion shillings for ghost dams, warns the DPP. Did you know there were ghost dams? Yeah. Kenya could pay up to 80 billion shillings to an Italian firm at the center of the Aurora and Kimorere dam scandals, even though the actual work was done, even though no actual work was done.
You surprised me there.
I know.
Maybe Ndu has an insight, a story that, a view that nobody else has.
I beg you, don't call my name. The Director of Public Prosecutions yesterday confirmed, or rather informed the Anti-Corruption Court in Milimani, Nairobi, that CMC de Ravenna Itanera, which joint venture had filed a case before the arbitration court in The Hague in pursuit of its payment. The firm wants the government compelled to pay 80 billion shillings for the project, whose initial budget was 65 billion. Through special prosecution Taib Al-Taib, the DPP made the revelations of the beginning of the trial of former National Secretary, Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich, who is charged alongside other government officials with corruption. According to Mr. Taib, we shall demonstrate to this court that it is not only the 65 billion that accused persons plan to steal, but the outcry that the government has been exposed in its excess of 80 billion, which contractors are actively pursuing in arbitration at The Hague. He continued, they seek to collect the money even though no dams exist on the ground. In the contracting, he pointed an accusing finger at Mr. Rotich, former Kerio Valley Development Authority Managing Director David Kimosop, and other government officials accused of conspiring to plunder public funds. The evidence available leaves no doubt that the finance CS had, with the intention of plundering taxpayers' funds, abused his fiduciary and legal responsibilities, leading to loss of over 21 billion shillings to date and counting. It was lost through the securing of loans borrowed
for the
dams project.
How much is government contemplating paying?
Not contemplating paying. According to what has been presented at the arbitration court at The Hague, what is being asked is 80 billion shillings.
God almighty.
No, it follows
for odious debt.
Yes, it follows a pattern. It follows a pattern, and we've discussed this on the show before. It's like our contracting is geared towards this particular eventuality.
Yeah.
Did we not see the same problem at Kenya Pipeline when Zakem was, a company called that, was demanding billions that they were supposedly, or they were never really paid, that they were supposedly owed for, again, work. It's a continuing saga. It's like a series in this country. You have this huge project, something goes wrong, you stop. Even now with the road constructions, we are having similar cases. You hear this over and over and over again. And you know the buck stops with the citizens having to fork out money to pay for contracts that have been abrogated. Why?
And money that is not there.
also had the same issue.
Yes.
And just to put it in perspective, IEA, Institute for Economic Affairs, just in an article I was reading yesterday, because we're in the budget making process, is arguing that government needs to invest 47 billion shillings in the budget to pay for vaccines to vaccinate all Kenyans. Actually, the argument they are making is that by relying on donations, government can't vaccinate all Kenyans, despite them saying that there are vaccines out there. So you're talking about paying 80 billion in odious debt or vaccinating Kenyans.
You know, that vaccination budget...
Which do you think will get paid?
That vaccination budget actually exists.
It exists.
Not in the budget?
Let me put it to you this way. It has been pronounced that money was set aside. Now, we've also asked that question. So, when we get vaccines, what are we dealing with? Are they the vaccines we have bought? Are they the vaccines that some kind person has donated? I mean, what are we dealing with? Again, this isn't new. You are presented with many, many, many situations, and the scenario is fuzzy at best. So you're not really sure what's going on. But the pronouncement at the end of the day is, this is what we're doing, this is the way we're moving forward. This pattern of projects that never seem to come to an end and money that we have to keep paying, how do you have a contract written in someone else's language and which can only be arbitrated in that person's country, and yet the contract involves you? Who signed off on that?
And constitutionally, there's an obligation by the accounting officer to ensure that those contracts are properly done. The liability actually should fall on those guys.
There is an office in the Treasury that ought to be looking into these things.
Even as we're looking at this, you know what? The sad thing is that the arguments can be made, the presentations can be put forth, but the scary thing at the end of the day is that you can argue and say how unfair it is and the contracting should have been different, etc., etc. But the likelihood of this money being paid with no work having done is extremely high. And that it will happen at the expense of many other things happening in this country.
Money designed to be stolen.
Do you remember what Shakil Shabir told us in the studio? He said, you know, corruption is budgeted.
Yes, it's budgeted for.
Yes, meaning part and parcel of that budget, the figure, this one, we are going to, we'll end there. So let's start the charade. Let's try to start the charade.
Stop it before it gets crazy.
Yes.
All right, coming to the top of the hour. All right, the conversations continue right here in the Situation Room on Kenya's biggest conversation. Okoh, CT, Muga, and Wanjiru Gikonyo with you in the studio today. We're going to go into the next hour and we discuss in a short while what is happening in terms of COVID recovery and if the plans that have been put in place are actually going to work out for the country. If you're just tuning in, this is where we are. We're coming around to 7 o'clock in a short bit with the news. Good morning.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. High Court Judge Said Chitembwe has 14 days from Monday this week to explain why he should not be removed from office after facing corruption charges. A Judicial Service Commission panel headed by Chief Justice Martha Koome has been set up to assess allegations against Judge Chitembwe before deciding whether to submit a request to President Uhuru Kenyatta to set up a panel to investigate the judge. Chitembwe has suffered public humiliation after former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko released various video recordings dubbed Sonko leaks, alleging that the judge received money over a matter in his court. Sonko claimed that the judge accepted a bribe to ensure he was removed from office. In an interview with KTN News, Sonko said his expose is just a beginning and that he would continue to expose more corruption in the judiciary.
We have to fix this country, we have to fix this nation, we have to fix the judiciary. People should know what is happening at the corridors of... I've been like a fan of cases because I've been handling so many things. Even before I ventured into politics, remember I was in matatu business. Fighting corruption was in my blood.
Sonko also defended the recordings between him and various people, saying the situation has helped to make various cases success as it is a way to gather evidence.
Article 35 of the Kenya Constitution, access to information, you can access any information any way you want it. For instance, kama hii kesi ya judge, singekuwa na evidence, nasema tu kwa mdomo, judge alitisha pesa. Ule msichana tulianza kudeal na yeye from January. Alikuwa anambia hivi ndio kunaenda. A certain lawyer has been paid millions from the county to his account. He withdraws the money. He takes to Judge ABCD. For this lady, I have over, from January, I have over 149 clips, video, and because the evidence she was giving, the information she was giving was very credible. Even in the corruption cases in court, for these ESCC officers to prove their cases, even DPP, they have to prove their cases beyond reasonable doubt. If Sonko you ask for a bribe, they'll come with a tape to say, this is a tape, how Sonko asked for a bribe. So you cannot rely on hearsay evidence when you're fighting such cases.
Standard Group continues to dig deeper into the Sonko leaks. Now, the Ministry of Health is expected to launch another mass vaccination exercise against COVID-19 Friday this week for a period of 10 days. According to COVID-19 Vaccination Task Force Chairperson Willis Ahwale, the government must achieve its goal of vaccinating 10 million people by the end of this year. The activity will take place in churches, health centers, Matatu Terminal, among others.
Let me actually state clearly that our target is 10 million vaccinations by end of December and 26 million fully vaccinated end of 2022. Currently, we are at 6.4 million vaccinations. So if we start doing 100,000 per day for the next 30 days, and you add to the 6.4, we are very close to 10 million vaccinations.
Others who will be targeted for the vaccination exercise are children between the ages of 15 and 17 who will be vaccinated using the Pfizer vaccine.
At the moment, we are going to start with our vaccination centers. The teenagers can walk in with their guardian, they give verbal approval, and they get vaccinated. As we move ahead, we will work with the Ministry of Education and see better strategies to reach them, because we must know that they are the main carriers of the virus. They may not be sick, but they cause the suffering of the elderly people.
This is Newswire, and the entire Standard Group continues to ask you to continue observing COVID-19 protocols, get out there and get vaccinated so that together we may win the fight against COVID-19. Tomorrow's Politics and One Kenya Alliance principals met with the Mount Kenya Unity Forum in what they say is exploring a possibility of working together ahead of the 2022 general elections. The meeting held in a Nairobi hotel saw the Okoh principals, Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, Gideon Moi of KANU, Musalia Mudavadi of ANC, and Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya meet with Kenya leader Martha Karua, who stated that they are engaging on a possibility of approaching the 2022 general elections as a united entity.
We came together to explore possibilities of working together. We belong to Kenya, and none of us can do it alone.
The dynamism of politics at play. We must always come together, think together, talk together, and act together. Okoh and Mount Kenya Unit Forum have started a journey of moving together. We have had a very fruitful meeting, and more meetings will follow, and we only can urge Kenyans to watch this space.
And ODM party leader Raila Odinga has taken IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati head on and asked him to name and shame those that have been campaigning against the law. Speaking at Chunga House, Odinga said that he has been crisscrossing the country to consult with Kenyans and selling his Azimio la Umoja initiative aimed at ensuring that Kenya is peaceful.
Cannot just call a spade, not a big spoon. This hypocrisy is what's actually leading this country astray, that people don't want to say the truth. Go and tell Mr. Chebukati, name the people, don't just make wild allegations and then let them meet the consequences, if there are any.
He adds that as ODM, they have no presidential candidate and can therefore not campaign for a position that has no order. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, so a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and it looks like it's already going quite jam-packed on Uhuru Highway this morning, all the way into the city. And this is from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, so traffic is already piled up there. Gong Road also joining in this as well. We're looking at Kamkunji, that whole stretch as you're going then and spilling over onto Haile Selassie Avenue this morning. Looks quite crazy. Jogo Road started early with that madness, and it looks like it's continuing quite some now. Langata Road, like we said, also has built up considerably, and there's a lot of traffic on the Thika Superhighway, but not crazy proportions just yet. Just around Survey as you head out then towards Pangani, coming off Kiambu Road also is quite packed. Parklands has also picked up some. Limuru Road packed from the village market, and you're heading out into the city. That's what we're looking at now. Where else are we looking at a lot of traffic today? Okay, here and there around Westlands, like we said. Use the bypasses. Southern bypass looking pretty good this morning. Coming out of Westlands, the Red Hill Link Road is what you want to use. Okay. And we're looking at Mombasa Road. Mombasa Road traffic has actually been behaving quite the lady these days, and I hope that continues, at least for some time. Okay, let's talk in about half an hour and see what it looks like when we'll be in traffic hour proper. But for now, I think we are at manageable proportions. Don't forget, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The
At 8
only
minutes
way
past
to start
7
your
o'clock,
day.
Kenya's biggest conversation, and it continues this morning wherever you're tuned in from. In Nairobi, 94.4, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.7 in Eldoret, 97.7 in Malindi, 90.9 in Nyeri, and 96.0 in Nakuru. Wherever you are, touch that dial and tune in. The live stream is up as well on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Ndoko C.T. Muga in the studio with you this morning, and Wanjiru Gikonyo is our guest host for today. And we're starting off the conversation. I'll introduce you to our guests for the hour in just a minute. As we're getting into things, we're going to be discussing this hour what we are looking at in terms of recovery and the plans that have been put in place, joint plans between the government and the International Monetary Fund, and what it has meant or what we've seen for Kenya so far in terms of progress. To help us have that conversation this morning, an old friend, and I can see, but before we get to him and before he settles down, in the studio right here with us is the East Africa Director for Human Rights Watch, Otieno Namwaya. Karibu sana to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Good to have you in the studio. Also joining us on the line is Irungu Houghton, who is the Executive Director of Amnesty International, and we'll have a chat with him in a short while as well. Okay, before we kick off the hour, CT, today's proverb.
Asifuye mvua imemnyea. Put in colloquial Kiswahili, yule ambaye mvua imenyeshea yeye ndio anasifu mvua. But the proverb says, asifuye mvua imemnyea. He who praises the rain has been rained on.
It can also be interpreted, depending on your outlook, as keep your enemies close. Depending on your outlook.
You know, that one is going to require a little explanation, isn't
I'm
it?
telling you.
Yes.
I just remember what you said a couple of days ago when you said the thing about proverbs is that they're open to interpretation.
Yes. It depends on your outlook.
And it's wide. And you cannot say that one interpretation is actually better than the other. Not really. So long as that's the sense it makes to the person who understands it, it's perfectly all right. I mean, think of this particular proverb being mentioned to somebody who resides in the desert. They don't see rain very often. So when you talk about the rain, he'll say, okay, nice proverb, but
I don't understand
mean
what
anything.
you're saying.
Why don't you give us a proverb about the sun? Or on about the sand. Makes more sense.
Tell us something else. Okay, so Wanjiru, the IMF and the government, hands together. Many months ago, said, you know what, we need some help here in order to be able to get onto the road for recovery.
Yeah.
And IMF said, all right, we can step in to help. However, there's certain things that we need to put in place to make sure that even if we do help here and there with the injection of much needed funds, is to put some things in place to get us on the road to recovery. COVID-19 also came in, and it was largely on that a lot of these things were hedged. And to say, all right, let's start out and see what we can do. Plan was put in place. We saw some of the things, and we were told in advance that, we're going to feel a bit of the pinch here and there. But what we're trying to do is get on the road to recovery. An overview. Where are we right now? What is happening, and how can we say progress is being or not being felt?
Yeah, thanks, Drew, for even giving us that backdrop. And if you allow me, I'll just say the initial $739 million was given by the IMF, was lent or made available in, very important, because we are going to pay for this thing, interest-free. It was made available in the form of an interest-free loan under the Rapid Credit Facility. And this was against the backdrop of COVID. Kenya had been negotiating with the IMF since 2019 because we were already in debt crisis. IMF was not really feeling us. They were saying, go and do things like raise taxes, blah, 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 blah. And government of Kenya was resisting. When COVID came, because of the economic consequence, the economic impact, Kenya had an opportunity and was then able to access this money. Then government proceeded to put together a COVID response strategy. Part of the COVID response was purchase of PPEs, and we know how that went through the KEBSA corruption scandal. The other was to put in place the household cash transfer program, targeting the vulnerable, which Human Rights Watch reviewed and has really talked about since the report was published, I think in June of this year, about who actually got that money and what was the role of government officers, who benefited instead of Kenyans. The other facility that was created under this support was there was a business support program that was set up targeting MSMEs. And again, a report by the National Bankers Association showed that less than 5% of MSMEs benefited from this money. Now, this is money loaned to Kenya. It's money that we're going to have to pay back. The EACC came in, investigated, gave recommendations for the prosecution of some big names, top government officials, as well as businessmen who are involved in the KEBSA procurement scandal. The Auditor General then proceeded to prepare a report on the same. And the last point I'll make is that as Kenya entered into the fiscal consolidation program in 2021, making Kenya eligible to then access 2.4 billion USD, because we needed to get into fiscal consolidation to get this money, one of the conditions of the IMF was that the perpetrators of corruption around COVID funds be prosecuted. Right? And it is one of the milestone deliverables. So government of Kenya has proceeded to present the audit report, but have the prosecutions happened?
That is a good question. And even as we go to that and maybe hear a little bit then from Otieno, let's welcome joining us also online today, Irungu Houghton, the Executive Director of Amnesty International. Irungu, it's been a minute. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks again for having me on.
Karibu sana to the Situation Room. You're no stranger here. Having a discussion this morning, and it's good to have you here with us. So, Otieno, as we just hearing that background from Wanjiru and saying that here we are in this situation whereby the road to recovery was mapped out, it would be seen as though agreements were made in terms of what is supposed to happen. Where are we now? What are we looking at now the situation which we are in, how far have we gone? And what are some things that we must insist on?
Thank you. I think the background that Wanjiru has given captures quite a bit of what has happened. But then there have been questions as well as to how we have handled the COVID situation, even before you begin to talk about the recovery or where we are heading to, where have we come from. So like Wanjiru said, there was quite a lot of money that was given to assist the government with response to COVID-19 emergency situation. And it didn't just come from the IMF. We do know that various other bilateral partners like the US, the UK, the EU, I think even China, even Germany did give a lot of money. But nobody knows exactly how much of that money has actually been received by the government. There's no public information on how much money the government received in response to COVID-19. And it's also not clear how much of that money is loan and how much of it is actually just grants. Secondly, the government received that money in order to respond to certain aspects of COVID-19. One of these was health related. The initial stages, it was actually the quarantining of people. It needed to support some of those measures, including subsidizing the cost of hotels for those who are being quarantined, providing testing services, among other things, providing PPEs for the people who are working in those quarantine facilities. From the work we did in May and April last year, the government did nothing of that, none of that. So the question that emerges is, where did the money that was provided for this go?
Otieno, you said the government did none of that. That what was initially prescribed in terms of what was supposed to happen with some of these funds, provision of some of these things, nothing, absolutely nothing happened?
Yes, we do know that people are paying for quarantine themselves. Secondly, if you got admitted, you went to hospital, you are charged for PPEs. So it was not free. So people actually paid, one PPE was paid by several people because everybody who came in paid for PPE. Yet the doctors and other healthcare workers were not replacing these facilities as required. Like one PPE, one overall was supposed to be used maybe in a day by one person. Masks, gloves were supposed to be replaced regularly, maybe hourly, maybe after 2 hours. But what we know that has happened is that there are overalls that were being used for several days by doctors. Masks and gloves were not being replaced. In fact, there are some which were used over and over. So the government didn't buy these facilities. And when it bought them, they were of very low quality because people just went to do business. People are doing business rather than responding to the emergency. So that is quarantine. The second thing was the cash transfers. Now, this was supposed to be economic response to COVID-19. And the government and partners agreed to target the vulnerable communities and help them alleviate the impact of COVID-19. And money was set aside. If you look at the IMF website, it states clearly the amounts of money that were given specifically to go to cash transfers. If you talk to government, the money that was set aside was 10 billion. The government says all that money came from the treasury. Not a single cent came from the donor. You know what that means? You provide a service, but you set aside two separate budgets. So the donor-funded one and the government one. Once you provide the service, both budgets disappear, and you provide accounting for both of them. So the donors fund this fully, but you also withdraw money from the government claiming that's funding. That's called double dipping. So that likely happened. But even the 10 billion that was spent, whether it came from the government or the donors, was not spent properly. Initially, the government had projected to be able to support 600,000 households. So each household approximately has 4 to 5 people. So if you calculate that, was supposed to be 2.4 million people in Nairobi alone in informal settlements. However, from government records, they claim they supported 334 households, 34,000 households. In reality, when you look at when you start doing your own research, you realize the government claims that these people received money from between April 27th to end of November 28th, thereabouts, 2020. However, from the government's own admission, when President Kenyatta was announcing that now we are beginning to do this for the vulnerable people on May 23rd of 2020, he was already saying that they are sending out 250 million per week. However, we do know that the whole of April and part of May, they were doing what they were calling piloting.
Okay.
And piloting was done in Nairobi alone. And they were supporting just about 9,000 households. After they finished piloting, they moved that to 75,000 households in Nairobi alone, and then expanded it to 17 other counties. So if 250 million was going to out every week in April, who was it going to?
Okay. These are it's crazy admissions, obviously, and I want to bring in Irungu at this point. Irungu, from your experience and maybe information that has come to you as well, who have benefited? If we're talking about recovery and the plans that have been put in place so far, who has benefited from this? Truth be told, the situation on the ground, as it were. Are we seeing a situation where Kenyans actually did benefit? Just taking off of what Otieno has said just now, in terms of cash transfers, for example, it would appear as though what is in the books is not what was the situation on the ground.
So thanks very much for the question. I think I would probably take a slightly different tack, if you allow me, because we have been focusing very much on the new mandates, the vaccine mandates that are there. But let me twist that issue back to your question, which is, if we look at the progress that we've seen since the introduction of the vaccines in March of this year, we have largely seen the vaccines take up to really affect and to benefit those people who are in urban centers. 9%, just under 9%, as we heard from Dr. Willis Khahwale yesterday evening, is just too low a figure. Like only 1 in 10 people have taken the vaccine. And, I think it's really important at this point, as we challenge the scope and the length of the mandate that is being proposed by the government, essentially to lock out citizens from government services or from public spaces or from public transport on the 21st of December if they haven't vaccinated.
Yes.
That, the numbers are still so low that we are still not out of this global killer that is called COVID. And I really want to emphasize that we are, as Amnesty International, we are not trying to increase vaccination skepticism, nor even health ministry skepticism. What we really want to see is a clear public awareness program that leaves the vaccination campaign voluntary, that it leaves it informed, and really in a position where we can begin to address some of the myths that are still there within the vaccine. And one of the ones that we heard from Dr. Halwale last night was really this point around many people still think that taking the vaccine will leave you infertile if you're a woman and impotent if you're a man. And there is no scientific evidence to this case. As Amnesty, we of course not epidemiologists or even medical health specialists, but from all the CDC centers, they are saying that there is no evidence that the vaccines, any of the ones that are prevalent in Kenya, have any impact on reproductive organs, women's fertility, or the ability of men to produce sperm. So I think we have to really focus on education at this point in order to really shift the focus from 1%, rather 10% of the population vaccinated to 90% of the population. But unfortunately, we don't have enough details and enough clarity on how this will be enforced if on the 21st of December, something like 50 million informal workers still haven't gone through their, haven't had their jab. So I think this is the point that we want to raise this morning.
Yeah, I think, thanks so much, Irongo, and also Otieno. There's a common thread in what you're saying is, one, there's a lack of clarity. There's a lack of clarity regarding the money that came in, how it was deployed and to what it was deployed. There are broad policy statements that were made, but, the devil detail is not known. Again, Irongo is also saying it's not clear with regard to the status of these vaccines, because we've been told they are vaccines, these many doses are available. We are not clear how accessible they are, at the health facility level. We are also not clear, like I was saying, the Institute of Economic Affairs has talked about the budget allocations in terms of the money that government has put in being inadequate to cover all Kenyans. And the question I'd like to ask Irongo, what does Amnesty plan to do with this directive? Because government, on one hand, is talking about withholding government services for those who aren't vaccinated. Are we clear that there is access to these vaccines, even if people did want to go that way? And you are talking about using the route of education. I don't know if you've been tracking the process to see, has the initial education that was done, because there was some effort to educate Kenyans around the COVID vaccine and around the COVID pandemic and their response to it. Has there been continued education to enlighten Kenyans? And what strategies should government employ? So there's an accountability question. But like Otieno told us when he started out, even before talking about the financial accountability, there is just the management of the process. So is government managing the vaccine rollout as they should?
That's a great question. I think if you'd asked me this question in July, I would have probably emphatically said that no, that Kenyans were still vulnerable. They did not have access to the vaccines, and fortunately, in August, we saw a massive, influx of vaccines into the country, and therefore, for those people, particularly in the urban areas, not necessarily just the big cities of Mombasa, Nakuru, Kisumu, and Nairobi, but even in other parts of the country, like Nyeri, there were vaccines made available to many Kenyans who took them up, and people came out and registered, and vaccinated. So I think we have to acknowledge that, unlike different parts of the world where there has been huge vaccine skepticism, Kenyans primarily have understood the danger of not being vaccinated, either for themselves or for the people around them, and in particular, the elderly. So I think that's the first thing. Back in April, we, as Amnesty International, we challenged the Ministry of Health to publish disaggregated or broken down data on who actually was getting the vaccine. We did not want to just have blanket numbers. What we wanted to hear was how many of our health workers have vaccinated, how many of our police officers are vaccinated, how many of the elderly, and if possible, even how many of the people that have underlying, medical conditions. Yeah. And it was good to see after about a month this started to happen. And as we know now, based on the information that is coming from the Ministry of Health, that there is very good uptake from at least the law enforcement agencies, from the teachers, and from the health workers. But we have not yet made a dent in terms of the number of the elderly that needs to come forward. And also, for that matter, I have colleagues in 5 different very poor counties, places like Garissa, Kilifi, Tana River. And as they're talking with communities about the need to vaccinate and their experience of the vaccination program, what we're hearing in those places is that for the pastoralists particularly, this is actually very difficult. But I think we really need to focus on getting the vaccines out to those parts of the country that are just still out of where people are just unable to access the vaccines.
Them.
But I think the problem is not so much distribution now. it's I think we have about 15, from what I heard yesterday, about 15 million doses that will be available in the next month or so, which is a large amount, and it does need to be administered before it expires.
It expires.
So I think the challenge now really is getting people to vaccinate, and anybody who's listening to me who is not vaccinated, we would say please consider strongly and present yourself for vaccination, and also encourage your families to do so. This is the only way that we can not go through another lockdown, not go through another curfew, and also not have this situation on the 21st of December where the government may try and enforce
the vaccination. All right, let's take a break on that note and come back and continue with this conversation. I think a good note to take a break on right now. We'll take a look at weather and traffic and come back on this road to recovery. Vaccines could be the way.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Follow your dreams to the land of the rising sun with a host of academic opportunities to pursue your undergraduate and postgraduate studies in Japan's leading universities. Visit www.studyinjapan-africa.com to find out how you can enroll to the program. They say the world can never run dry of talent. We just need to celebrate them. Join Jamal and the lovely Laura as they give us a brilliant showcase of 254's finest talent in the music industry and take us through great music hits. Watch Iwake every Saturday at 10 p.m. on KTN Home.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi at 18, highs of 28 and lows of 17 today. Sunny at 13 in Nakuru, highs of 28 and lows of 12. Nyeri, sunny at 14, highs of 27. And Eldoret, sunny at 11, highs of 25 and lows of 10 today. In Mombasa, it's partly sunny at 27, highs of 33 and lows of 26. And we're looking at sunny conditions in Malindi as well at 29. It'll go to highs of 32 today and lows of 27. Kisumu was mostly sunny at 19, highs of 30 and lows of 19. And we're looking at sunny conditions in Kakamega at 19, highs of 30 and lows of 14. Kampala sunny at 20, highs of 29 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam at 27, sunny conditions, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Johannesburg is sunny at 13, highs of 25 and lows of 11. And we're looking at cloudy conditions in Lagos, chance of rain, highs of 33 and lows of 25. At 24, Kinshasa is rainy this morning. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 23.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refused to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani from maternity hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he was cleaning. He cleaned it.
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money is our money and my money is my money.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals
Okay,
our
so what are we
money.
looking at now? We are in traffic hour officially, that's for sure. Coming out of most parts of the western part of the city, then getting into the CBD, quite thick there. Not to forget, you can use the Red Hill Link Road. Might want to suggest that because it looks quite thick today. Ngong Road also piling up some. Bagathi Way coming off of Langata Road, quite some as well. We're looking at Uhuru Highway. Coming off of quite a lot here. Haile Selassie is what's taking the largest hit today. Coming off of Thika Superhighway as well, quite some traffic coming in from Pangani. That Thika Road traffic today is hot. It is heavy. Coming off Kiambu Road as well. Limuru Road, jam-packed, moving very slowly, bumper to bumper in most parts. And we're also looking at that industrial area circuit that's quite tight this morning. Jogger Road onto Landis and into Kamkunji. It is traffic hour proper. So what are we going to do? We're going to take it easy. What else are we going to do? You will let us know how to handle it. If you are coming out of a place where it's looking good, let us know. A lot of traffic in your end. Let us know that as well. How? SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
We Kenyans love a great time. What better way to have a good time than listening to the greatest music hits in town and experience a party like never before? From 80s, 90s throwback, reggae, R&B music, and much more. You sure will be bumping your head. Watch Party All DJs on Thursday at 10 p.m. and Friday at 10:30 p.m. only on KTN Ho.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
We're
FM,
tuned into the Kenya's
Nairobi.
biggest conversation this morning around the country and online. Our live stream is up. Okoh, CT Muga in the studio with you this morning, and the founding trustee and national coordinator of the the Institute for Social Accountability, Tisa Wanjiru Gikonyo, is in with us today. We're having a conversation on the road to recovery from COVID-19, what was promised, some of the things that were not done. If we're really going to get onto that road to recovery, what are some things that we are insisting on? Having that conversation this morning with the East Africa Director for Human Rights Watch, Otieno Namwaya, as well as the Executive Director for Amnesty International, Irungu Houghton. The conversation continues this morning and looking at some of those issues. City.
Irungu. Good morning. Something I'd like to ask, Irungu, if I may. In how many counties is Amnesty International represented?
I can answer that institutionally. We do not have offices in any other county but the county of Nairobi out of choice. We have 1,700 members, so 1,700 members, and they come from at least 30, I believe, of the 47 counties. So we're actually very actively now working with what we call circles of conscience. These are community-based initiatives that are promoting and protecting human rights.
Super. I mean, that is a good representation. The reason why I ask, one of the things that we have been told is a problem with the issues around the vaccine is people are not certain where it is they can actually get the vaccine. So using your good offices, knowing how well you are connected and how you can talk to people in power, if it is possible for people to actually have the information, so I am in County X. Now, if I want the vaccine, I can get it there. Now, the network of people you have, perhaps this is not your purview, but this is something you could do. Your corporate social responsibility. Let them also help the communities getting to understand where people can get the vaccine or the days in which the vaccine is available. Because part of the problem we have is fatigue. Somebody goes to look for the vaccine, doesn't get it, after a week, they're not going to keep going. They've got other things to do. So we know that the vaccines get to the headquarters of the counties, but thereafter, that information is not very reliable.
CT, could I jump in and bring out a different perspective to the vaccine issue, which is the human rights perspective, with that directive? What is the human, and maybe Otieno can speak to this, what is the human rights position with compelling, threatening to withdraw government services? And can government force Kenyans to vaccinate? I think Kenyans need to vaccinate. It is in our interest to vaccinate, but human rights are equally important. So where do we stand on this? Is government on the right road on this one?
Let me start by saying that states have obligation to protect the people. So when there's a pandemic like coronavirus, the state has an obligation to ensure that either people are vaccinated or those who have been infected are treated. Having said that, however, the states are also required to ensure that the measures they take are lawful and proportionate. So by proportionate, we mean before the government can declare that it will take certain measures to ensure that its obligations are fulfilled or it achieves certain ends, it needs to ask itself whether there was nothing less destructive or less that will cause less harm than the measure that they are taking, that they should have taken. So if before the government declares that we shall not allow you into government offices unless you are vaccinated, the government needs to ask, first of all, how much has it done to sensitize Kenyans and to ensure that Kenyans are aware that they need to be going to vaccinate. And the second thing is how much has government done to ensure that the vaccines are available. So today, we can say that the vaccines are fairly well available if you look at the number of doses that the government is saying is going to be shipping in. But for how long has that been around? For much of this year, Kenya had just about 1.2 million, was it 1.2 or 2 million doses? And they were being administered to specific groups, the doctors, the teachers, the vulnerable groups. So for quite some time, Kenyans, the ordinary Kenyans could not do that.
Sorry to cut in. Are you saying that because vaccines are now available, government can then put this requirement to withdraw government services in order to compel people to vaccinate? And if they extended the deadline maybe to March, that it would be in order. So where's the human? I think you're talking about timeline being an aspect. Is this feasible? Can people actually gain access? And then from a human rights perspective, how should government have handled this? What should the reaction of Kenyans be? We've seen what's happening in Europe. People are going up in arms. So how do we balance the human rights aspect, assuming the vaccine is available and enough time is given?
Wanjiru, maybe I can go in, because I think with the Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International are probably on the same page with this. Actually, as you were speaking, I was thinking perhaps you had read our statement on Monday, and we made it really clear that vaccination is a right to health response. There is no, I guess, binary or oppositional position in terms of that. Vaccination is critical for public health rights at this point. But we made it also very clear that you cannot deprive a person of their right to work through essential services, including health. The moment, as it stands, and as the Ministry of Health have tweeted yesterday, even before the 21st December deadline, they're now saying that you cannot receive in-person services from the state. And I think there needs to be some clarity within the Ministry of Health whether these measures start on the 21st of December, whether they are proposals, whether they're going to be legally enforceable, and for what duration are they going to last for. And I think this is Tieno's point, right? Is so that, are we saying that, come 22nd or 21st of December, if you haven't had your vaccination in full or partially, you will never get government services. I mean, does that mean for the next year? Does it mean that people should stop, visiting government offices from then on? Presumably, people will not be able to vote on August the 9th if it is left indeterminate in terms of the length of period. But I think the other area is the area of the freedom of movement.
If I can just ask you to qualify, because I can hear where you're going with this. What if government does enforce that edict or directive and say, until you're vaccinated, you can't access? Is that in compliance with human rights? Because they've made the vaccine available. There are some Kenyans who, for whatever reasons, are resisting.
Wanjiru, there's a question there. Have they made it available?
No.
We have vaccines in the country.
I'm asking from a human rights perspective,
for how
assuming it's available, and assuming there are some Kenyans who are resisting, is it in compliance with human rights to deny Kenyans government services? And if it's not, then what response should we be having to these guidelines? How can they be made human rights compliant?
So I think the first thing to do is to look at, we can look comparatively globally across the world at the use of mandates. And you've given some examples of European countries. There are countries where this has been imposed as a government directive.
Yes.
There are other places where, like the United States of America, well, there's a federal order that all federal employees, all government employees must be vaccinated in order to continue working.
Yes.
And you have many large businesses, from Walmart and others who have basically declared that any employee that's not vaccinated cannot hold their job. But those are decisions of businesses in the U.S. I think what we have to be serious about and clear about, distinct about in terms of a mandate approach and a compulsory approach to vaccination is that our economy is essentially an informal economy. You've got 15 million people in the informal sector. Less than 3 million are in the formal sector. If KEPSA decided to rally behind this directive, it would only be able to enforce about, maybe 2-3 million people. 15 million people are in the informal sector. They are not going to essentially be compelled to do this if it means shutting down their small and medium enterprises, if it means shutting down their small restaurants and public spaces. And therefore, what you're left with, if I can just paint a predictable future, if there is an attempt to make this a legal directive, is that you will have police officers going into public spaces and literally asking people for their vaccination certificates and arresting them, or pulling them out of matatus and arresting them because they don't have vaccination certificates, in the way that we saw the curfew management go so badly wrong and so much brutality and corruption. So I think the point is, it's not just a human rights perspective in the legal sense. It's also a question about, is this a pragmatic, effective way of dealing with the issue of vaccine uptake? And I would argue, based on what we've seen globally and also based on what we know of the Kenyan economy, that this is not a policy that will be delivered effectively.
Then begs the question. Because we can postulate and we can talk about this and talk about. The question is, what ought we to do? Right? Because here we are, and we've already had the fundamental thing being, we cannot run away from the importance of having everybody vaccinated. If we're talking about road to recovery, if we're talking about suggestions that have been made, whether it's from global bodies or government, one of the things that we've seen very clearly now, if we're getting on the road to recovery, that the economy must again be vibrant and robust. How are we going to be able to do that within a safe space? Is to keep people safe, health-wise. And one of the ways that we can do that is by vaccinating, right? We assume that government understands that, right? We assume that government understands that. We don't
have to assume it.
So
the thing is, we can hear it,
right? Okay, but the thing is here, and we're saying. Sorry, there's a bit of a time. Sure. So we're saying that government, in their wisdom or otherwise, has said this is what we're asking you to do. We have seen that there has been a low uptake What then ought to be done? Because we can have these conversations in spaces where we say, well, it's trampling on human rights, it is not fair, it is illegal. What then, if we're going towards a solution-oriented conversation, what then must happen?
And
I think both of you, I get, and also Otieno, as well as from
the human rights approach.
What should be the approach? Because the truth of the matter is, people need to be vaccinated. We need to get this economy up and running again. We need people in formal sector to be back at work fully, while protected.
I have a couple of ideas, but maybe Otieno, you could jump in.
Sure.
Governments don't necessarily have to use force and threats. Governments can also use persuasion and explanation. I think a lot of times what we have seen the government do is to run away from explanation. So if somebody is questioning the efficacy of the vaccine or the safety of that vaccine, I think what we have seen in other countries, they engage with those people, provide explanation, provide evidence. But what we have seen in Kenya is that the government, rather than provide that explanation, it either preaches to people or threatens them or uses force. And we have seen this not just with vaccines, but many other things, including Huduma number.
And we know how that one ended up, didn't we?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have some ideas, Irungu, of how this can happen, because we're looking at very short timelines. We're coming into December in a couple of days. This directive is coming out in the next 21. You said you have some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is I guess the phrase, if CS Kagwe was listening and watching us now, I would say, listen, rally us, don't bully us. That's the first thing. For the political leaders who are organizing these large public rallies, and I noticed that they were left out of the directive, can they...
Maybe they've been vaccinated. They vaccinated last year.
Yeah, but leadership is not self-protection. It is protecting your followers. And I think I would challenge, particularly the leaders that are able to amass, whether by inducement or, by love, these large rallies. Let them call the Ministry of Health to bring vaccination centers to their points of their rally. Let the faith leaders continue to make sure that vaccination centers are available in the churches. About a month ago, my wife and I, we contributed from our income, and we rallied Kilimanians to basically organize a vaccination day for the elderly in Dagoretti North, and we paid this out of our own money. Because we felt that it was so important that the elderly in our community would be vaccinated, and hundreds of people came forward once it was made available. So that's the third thing. Amnesty, has been calling for our supporters and our members to vaccinate and to encourage other people to vaccinate. Could we see governors, for example, leading vaccination drives in the counties, particularly those counties that have very low levels of vaccination at this point? Can the minister, travel to a place like Garissa and Tana River and those counties that have very low uptake and be publicly seen to be encouraging people to vaccinate? Can the president, on his return from South Africa, hopefully he has got to see some comparative strategies because, COVID has hit South Africa very hard. Perhaps he can travel from Johannesburg to one of the northern counties and rally people there. The Devolution conference, I think, is starting today. Today. Can we have a clear statement from 47 county governors?
Irungu will have a very clear statement, but if there's a group of people who actually need to be pushed and pushed to the point where they are actually mandated to do what they're supposed to do at the government and all these people you're mentioning, on their own, they do not take these matters seriously.
And can I ask a question that takes us back to the issue of accountability on the financing side? To what extent has the mismanagement of COVID funds dented public trust of government and trust in the COVID response? And what should be done to rebuild public confidence in the government's response? Because when you see huge amounts of money, billions, are lost through irregular tenders to politically connected people, and then the very same government is coming to coerce you into vaccination, there is a big gap. So what needs to be done on the accountability side to build confidence that we are on the same page on the COVID response? And I'm throwing that to both of you.
Allow me to, first of all, before I answer that question, to still go back to the issue of the measures the government is putting in place with regard to vaccination. You know, the government has a responsibility to treat everybody equally. And if you're putting in place measures and policies and laws, then enforce the laws across the board. If you begin to enforce the laws selectively, like now you say you can't hold public meetings beyond 100 people, but politicians hold
rallies of thousands
and nothing happens, that's a violation because it is discriminatory. There's a group of people who can get away
But you know what is the rule? We can't hold rallies above how many people?
100.
Meetings.
100.
Yeah.
But you see, these are in the thousands, so it's a different category.
There is selective application.
Please go on, yes.
Or even the policies and the measures there. So that is an area that the government needs to address because then some people feel like they are less of Kenyans than the others.
What needs to be done to restore confidence
in the COVID response from an accountability point of view?
Yeah, first of all, the accountability question is on several fronts. There's the financial front, and then there is the police abuses front. And then there is also just the other bit of public participation and communication, transparency. So the financial front, of course, it is allow the relevant agencies like the EACC to investigate properly. And then once that information comes out, like we saw that in the KEMSA scandal, they were saying 15 people needed to be prosecuted. You prosecute them. That one, we don't know where it is. Even though the information is there, we know who has been implicated. Nobody has gone to court. On the police front, it's a long-standing issue. When the government issued the curfew directive and the police were practicing out there doing push-ups, it looked like to them when they're sent out there to enforce anything, the only thing they know is to shoot.
Right.
But there's a lot more to policing than just shooting and beating. And that's a culture issue within the police that needs to be addressed. But beyond that, there's also an accountability question because the culture grows because they know that they can get away with it, they can do it, and nobody will ask.
I will ask them. I'm going to ask you, Rungu, because we're wrapping this up now, in terms of what needs to be done to restore this confidence. In a short bit from you, Irungu, what needs to be done?
Well, I mean, I think Wanjiru is making a very legitimate point, right? Which is that, corruption and impunity is probably the single biggest virus in this country, and it has claimed more lives than COVID-19. If I can just be a bit dramatic about this.
Yeah.
We see it in all the public health and education centers. Even the fact that we weren't able to respond very quickly to the virus is a consequence of the corruption that we've seen. So, she's making an important point. I think we can do two things simultaneously. We can demand accountability from the state, and we can vaccinate and encourage other people to vaccinate.
To vaccinate as well.
I don't think we should wait for one before we do the other. I think both of them are legitimate public health and anti-corruption, demands.
Right.
And we must make them simultaneously and vigorously.
Irungu,
to the next administration.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Otieno Namwaya, thank you as well for being part of this conversation with us today. Hopefully these accountability measures can rack up. Asante Sana. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The 7th Devolution Conference is expected to be officially launched today by President Uhuru Kenyatta in Bote, Makueni County. The last Devolution Conference saw the first meeting discuss peace and security. Mombasa Governor Hassan Joe says they discussed ways that will see counties involved actively in achieving peace and security in and across counties.
We are trying to create a movement within the counties that will be able to play a proactive role towards achieving peace and security in our countries. The conversation is based on the fact that for far too long, it has been believed that security as a function squarely lies in the hands of national government. But we feel that we have a critical role to play, and more particularly now that we're headed towards electioneering period. We want to see how counties can be involved with what we define as soft approach.
NCIC Sam Corner, who was a representative of stakeholders in the meeting, said with the electioneering period a few months away, it is important to focus on peace and unity. He further said that politics shouldn't make us lose our focus as security matters are concerned.
Issues of peace, security and cohesion, as well as countering violent extremism, should be the business of every level of government, should be the business of every institution. Already, the whole country is obviously in an electioneering mood, and what we are saying is that we should not take our eyes off the target because of politics. We must remain vigilant because Al-Shabaab and all the enemies that are working every day to destroy our country are active, and if politics can make us compromise our vigilance, then we will not have done a good service to our country.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to issue the State of the Nation address Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui made the announcement during a meeting with members of Parliament at Parliament grounds. The meeting will be held on Tuesday and not on the traditional Thursdays, since MPs are expected to break for recess on December 2nd, 2021. It is anticipated that President Kenyatta will go through his regime's accomplishments as well as table his agenda for his final year in office. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO has declared July 7th each year as the International Day for celebrating the Kiswahili language. This is expected to be highly commended, especially in Africa, where the language is widely spoken, as well as being the first language in the continent to have its own special day and recognized by the United Nations. According to the UN website, the decision was arrived at after its members agreed on the same during a conference organized at the UN headquarters in Paris, France. To date, Kiswahili is recognized as one of the official languages of the African Union, and it is official language of the East African Community and the African Parliament. Indeed, Kiswahili kitukuzwe. Festus Musyoka, a DCI officer who was wounded after being shot in the neck in a bar on Thika Road in Nairobi, has died. DCI boss Tare Police Station Daniel Musange said the officer died while receiving treatment at a Nairobi West hospital. Musange said that the main suspect in the case may be charged with murder following the incident on July 2nd. So far, the main suspect in the case, Dixon Janja Mararu, has not been taken to court for months after the incident, after police requested more time to complete the investigation. A GSU officer was shot dead by his colleagues under unclear circumstances at Mitete village in Laikipia West. Confirming the incident, Laikipia County Police Commander John Nyoike said the two officers engaged in an altercation at the GSU camp in the area before one of them unleashed his firearm and attacked his colleague. After the incident, the armed officer took off with his belongings, including firearm involved in the attack. Efforts to arrest the fleeing officer turned futile after he managed to escape as he opened fire at his colleagues who were pursuing him. The police commander said investigations are underway to establish the motive of the attack as a manhunt for the officer continues. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
A few minutes after 8 o'clock, and traffic is actually packed in most parts of the city. Let's take a look at the Thika Superhighway, where it's coming in hot and heavy into the CBD this morning. Kiambu Road actually quite packed as well. Looking on the western side of the city, we are looking at a serious traffic coming out of Westlands. Don't forget, use the Red Hill Link Road. That will give you a good way out of the city, then into wherever else it is that you're headed this morning. Langata Road also quite packed this morning. Bagandhi Way taking a hit as well. The CBD is where all roads lead to this morning, coming off Mombasa Road in both directions. Some traffic, especially around that nook of Imara Daima. All right, what else are we looking at? Yes, Uhuru Highway. All along the different roundabouts that you'll find some traffic today. So we want to keep it sane as much as possible, guys. How can you do that? If you're stuck somewhere, let us know. Find a good route. Let us know that as well. How do you do that? SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's text on 40127. It's Wednesday, middle of the week. What do we want to do? We want to keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your...
At 6 minutes past 8 o'clock, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, and wherever you're tuned in around the country, karibuni sana. We're also live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter as you join in Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. At a few minutes past 8 o'clock, we want to also say welcome to our audience on KTN Home. And as we start off the hour, Ndu Okoh, CT Muga, Wanjiru, Gikonyo in the studio this morning, and we are joined this morning by our guest today. It's been a long time coming, but it's finally that day.
Thank you.
Joshua Igara is in the studio with us this morning, the Group CEO and Managing Director of KCB. Karibu sana to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much, Mishukuru sana. And you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. This means one thing. If you say that, it means that you've listened to this show.
I have listened to the show.
Okay.
I've listened many times to the Situation Room.
Mm-hmm.
You do a fantastic job.
Now you're on the other side of things. As they say, behind and in front of the camera. So here you are with us today, and I'm very glad to have you here today. Eric Latiff would have told you if he was here that is the hot seat.
Oh, happy to be here, though.
It would seem that with the many fires that you're trying to put out and maybe ignite in some places, that you are the one who are bringing the fire this morning. So let's see if the seat is hot or if you are the one who is going to make it hot. All the same, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
We're going to kick off the hour with a proverb C.T. Muga is going to tell us about.
No, I'm not stating that proverb
Rain
before.
and fire.
No. But Joshua Igara has very clearly told us that he listens to the show and he likes the show.
So you're done for the day.
No.
Christmas
I
comes
have to build on that one. As you walked into the studio, as you walked into this premise,
Correct.
What was your impression?
So I would say three things, actually, Muga, for me. So there's passion when I listened, walking in. You feel the energy in the room.
Yes.
There's definitely purpose.
Yes.
That I can see in terms of the conviction. And there is progress.
Okay.
Oh, 3 Ps.
3 Ps.
PPP.
Yes.
Correct.
Wow. And the layout and the studio.
But this is different. I mean, I've been here before, but and I know that you're launching soon the whole new studio. But this is different. I've been here a couple of times, but not to Situation Room. And thanks for hosting me today.
Yes.
You know, without progress, without purpose, without passion, you never get breakthrough.
Hey.
Nice.
Okay.
Way.
Like I said, we can just
Taking notes.
We can, Wanjiru's already the pen
yeah.
is scribbling quickly already.
Wanjiru's going to use this somewhere else.
Yeah, of course I will. Good things are to be shared.
You don't want to patent that, Joshua?
No. So that he can actually claim some royalties.
Indeed.
Huh? Okay, the proverb, it's a Swahili proverb. Asifuye mvua imemnyea. Whoever praises the rain has been rained on.
Mm-hmm. Whoever praises the rain has been rained on.
Yes.
All right. So that probably will find its meaning as we have this conversation today, rather in the next hour.
I can see you've given up on this proverb. Let us move on.
Gara has come with fire. Now
Correct.
City has some rain. I don't know.
If
Let's
they're going
see.
together.
Let's see. It will be interesting
everything
to
in
see.
its time.
That's very deep, though, Muga must say.
Quite.
That's the proverb is very deep because every single day, and this is what we're going to talk about today. The country is driven by men and women raising their energies to build progress, and they're out there. You call them Juakali. They're in the sun. They're either in a shade. And what you see, the outcome, we talk about buy Kenya and build Kenya. Ultimately, if you don't convict and do something to build your country and lift it up, we will never see growth.
Right.
We'll never create opportunity for the next generation. And that's where those who have been rained on are the businessmen and women you're talking about this morning.
Those who've been rained on and then have an opportunity to make fire.
Absolutely.
Voila. All right. So, 2011. And then, even before I go that, CT was asking us, okay, so now Joshua Ogara, what do we call him? Mr. Ogara? Do we call you Joshua?
Bwana CEO.
Bwana CEO. Bwana
Josh is how people call me.
Josh, even better.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So, thanks.
That's going to have difficulty rolling off my tongue.
It's going to be difficult for you?
No.
All right. I'm going to go with Joshua.
Very good.
All right. 2011, your entrance into KCB. Over the last 10 years, we've seen different things happen through the institution. And then we've come to the point where your face then has been synonymous. Your face, your being, your character has been synonymous with the growth of the bank. We think KCB, we see your face. How has that been from your position, whereby you've seen KCB come from the point whereby things were still extremely analog, coming about, bringing in so many changes, and then being then one of the leading institutions in the region?
So, I would say it's been an exciting journey for me. And many times, there are many great staff. I can't forget the question I was asked on the first day in 2011, whether my feet could fit the shoes. Remember, I was taking over from a very successful CEO.
Yeah.
But my vision has always been very solid. And I think for every single Kenyan business today, building a great enterprise, a global business in our local market. Ultimately, the future belongs to doers. And I always say, one person, if I go to Conrad Hilton, one of the most successful hoteliers many years, says, success seems to connect with action. Successful people keep moving. They make mistakes, they never quit. That's progress globally. The same thing today, if you move many years later to Amazon or Apple today. Same thing we're doing. What Kenya lacks is businesses that can transcend and become greater and lift these people out of the challenges they face. So that's the aspiration I had. A lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. And I think, have we achieved the mission we have today? We're the largest bank in Kenya today, largest bank in the region, in excess of 1 trillion shillings in assets, close to 100 billion shillings in revenue this year, and with 20 million customers today. What we see is that ability to build more strong growth. And the way to answer it, I always say simple. When you're in Kenya, you don't always see progress. So I was speaking to a friend of mine who was here in 2010. He came from London. He came the other day, told me, wow, you changed. From 20, you don't see progress every day.
No.
But he says 10 years later, dramatic push. Our business was 1/4 of what it is today. And when I say, obviously, the conviction I have is that purpose is what drives business. What are we about as KCB? We're about only two things: enabling progress, so that we can create impact and transform lives. Enabling progress. Because everybody must move. Africa's greatest challenge is to move. If you stay in the same position over time, you get left behind.
I really like what you're saying, Joshua, and I'm scribbling notes because, really very forward-looking, very inspiring. And I like what you said about the rain and those who are rained on, because you're talking about progress, you're talking about movement, but there is a sector that's stuck, and some are stuck because of economic, structural impediments. And it's a large sector. The majority, the informal sector, works in an environment that does not enable them to realize their ability. And like you said, Kenyans are resilient. This is possibly the most resilient sector. They get burned down. They get council askaris come and thwart them. They were impacted heavily by COVID. They rely on their household savings or even contributions to survive. Most resilient sector. And I think I was very touched that was one of the first things you said. You recognize there's a sector here, very key in our country, that is not able to realize its potential and contribution to the country. So what is KCB as a bank doing to support
Correct.
this
And I
sector.
love that we're speaking about this in the in the situation room, because ultimately we can be as controversial and push back. Because whatever we need to do, 80% of the jobs in our market are created in this sector. Correct? 80%. So, obviously it's around demystifying or constructing afresh a new narrative.
Right.
So if 80% is where business is, why are we not supporting them?
Right.
Correct? Why are we harassing them? Whether it is from your askaris, your license. Why is it so complex? Today you need 12, 13 licenses to run one business.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. I mean, I run one of this, and I engage a lot of these businesses very much. I'll tell you what we do, but I'll tell you my own experiences. So one of the people I worked with closely was a young entrepreneur who wanted to do art space. So, the way, we have many Kenyan artists, brilliant artists, they do their own sketches and drawings, and we can see a lot of African art. We promote a lot of them. Where do you sell them? You need an art space.
Yes.
So they went online. They created one. Every day they used to be harassed. Where's your license? Where's your documents? And when they give it, it disappears. And because you're not there every day, and you have to give something in return. And so I like policy is one issue. You have very good policies. Kenya has moved up from the cost of doing business much higher. But what we believe is ultimately is that you have to support the businesses today that are running the race to create jobs, to create opportunity for the future. And it's not new for Kenya. Globally, SMEs and MSMEs are 90% of the jobs by number, not by value, by number, globally. So it's not new. And so when we launched Partner Kwa Ground and we said every single business requires three things. Financing is the biggest issue that SMEs face, correct? Access to market is another issue. I get very disappointed when I'm getting a toothpick and I find it was manufactured overseas. We have to make something. If you're going to be progressive, you must make. We can't be a great country if we are importing every single item, including a handkerchief. It doesn't work.
Sure.
That's what we need to support. Number three, they need access to technology. This will make it easy for them to run fast. So if I go to Gekomba market or Kongowea market and I look at someone like Mama Mboga, what do they need? Dignity, access to credit. They need availability and on time. Means for Mama Mboga to come to the bank and get credit, in fact, is a very difficult measure. So today, we unveiled mobile lending. Correct? So whether it's KCB M-Pesa today, whether it's Vuma Loan today, or Fuliza today, that gives you instantaneously dignified. You in your home, in your shop, in your kibanda, and today people talk about kibandas like that, but that's where business happens.
Yeah.
That is the Africa of the future. Can we transform? That's what I call enabling progress. So that model. So today we allow daily, real-time access for credit, which is an important aspect. We also bring in networking through our Biashara Club because we have a very huge, the largest business club in the country today by the bank. It's free for our customers because, you do business through networking. Yeah, you know where you can build this, where you can get that issue. And then number three, we then make sure that all the concerns that they have in terms of getting access to credit, we have today 210 shops or branches in Kenya and 400 in the region. So it means everywhere you'll find us. If you can give you a solution for your query, you'll make progress.
Right. Are we looking? So it's clear that the support for small businesses in the country is right there in terms of the agenda for you as you look at it. The infrastructure that you've talked about, whether it's technology that's required, whether it's, the mobile infrastructure that's required, whatever it is, then also being made available. Is that the primary focus for you right now? Or is it in terms of how far ahead you can go in terms of making yourself a financially viable institution in the country?
So today I will say that we will never be, we have a lot of history as an organization, and it's an excellent question. So I'll say two aspects. The future belongs to the doers. It's important that what you do today, whether you're a business and especially for MSME, I think what you do today is extremely important for your tomorrow. Sometimes businesses worry about, I say it's better to build an imperfect business than waiting for a perfect moment to start a business. Because business is not about perfection, it's about progress. Correct? Am I moving from one step of building? Because look at technology companies today like Apple, for instance. They are refreshing a new phone every year. Why? People say it's perfect. But why I refresh it is because it's making progress every year. So our progress is, we are very successful organizations, and our founders have built the largest financial institution in the region and in Kenya today. So why we focus on SMEs and MSME today is for two things. One, the future jobs for the next generations are in that sector. Whether they are formal or informal, we keep on distinguishing. There is no distinction. My mom used to run a kiosk and a shop. That was her business.
Right.
And I mean, Nairobi, I say it's a kiosk. She pays her school fees from there.
Sure.
She pays the rent from there. She takes her kids to school from there.
It's
When you say it's a Jokali, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's business. And I think in the world, we need to appreciate the form and structure. So what we do today is by investing in those businesses, we create a network, correct? And that network of customers is how we future-proof the future of the bank. So by doing right today, you're building for the future. And we're not looking for perfections. What you're looking for is businesses. Today, we have 10 million customers today digitally connecting with us. We have today 1 million SMEs that are working for us out of the 7.5 million businesses in Kenya today. So credit, for me, it's an important aspect that I think it's one of the greatest challenges, and especially for youth-led businesses and the women entrepreneurs. That's a big area of focus for us. People say youth-managed, but you look at businesses today, if you go any shop, you see a young person.
Right.
They may not be the owner today, but they're the tomorrow's owner. So I say in my own view as a bank, the billion-dollar business of the future must be built today. That's our aspiration today as KCB.
Yeah, Joshua, can I ask, cost of credit?
Correct.
It's too high, especially to this group. There's also an argument that the cost of credit within the banking sector, within even microfinance, sometimes the microfinance is even more expensive than the banking sector, that there's a lack of transparency in setting these rates.
Correct.
That are making it too expensive to borrow, too expensive to repay.
Correct.
The profits are inordinately falling on the banking side, on the lender side. What would you say to that? That there's a need to democratize this space more, to open up the opportunity more, looking at comparative cost of borrowing, let's say in Europe, we're competing globally.
Correct.
How are you going to compete globally when it's too expensive? You can't afford the cost of credit, cost of electricity.
Correct.
Competitiveness is just not there. And competitiveness has been...
question for me, and I love this question because I spent the last 10 years trying to give an answer for it. I mean, I can assure you that banks want a lower cost of credit.
Yeah.
Banks have no interest, like for us, to have high interest rates. They have no interest. Because you see, banks in Europe are lending at lower rates, and they're still able to run their business. What we see is the infrastructure. What makes banking expensive today is just that the cost of providing the service is extremely high. Because normally there are three elements. One is your cost of deposit, correct? Because our markets are not the depth is very little. I mean, if you look at the government today, the government is borrowing at 7-8%. European governments are borrowing at 0.1, 0.2%. So already, if a government is borrowing at that level, then you can see that already our cost is higher.
It's high.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason that we have not expanded the economy big enough to raise more revenues, to make more investment through manufacturing, agriculture, food security. That's what it needs to do. So that's how we are moving. Can we move faster? Yes. So banks want to do it. So the central bankers, today we are doing something called risk-based pricing that we are working on very closely. So that if you are a priority customer like today, Muga yourself, you can get, if you're a priority today and your credit score is the best, you can get the highest rate. If Joshua today doesn't have the highest credit score, you then pay the highest rate. You differentiate. Today we have put everyone, centralized them under one rate. So like for instance, our rate is 13%. So we see that differentiating. I think you have a continuum. You can borrow prime rate to 3%. You can borrow high. There's nothing wrong borrowing at 20% if your risk profile is that high.
But how will I repay?
Well, there are people today who buy products in the market. I buy at 10 shillings. I sell it at 300 shillings. There are people who sell those products. They are different businesses, I can assure you. So it's just looking at the market. Now, can we see the prices going down? I think, this is the lowest prices we have seen in a decade.
The question, though, would be then, what role would you play?
Correct.
Knowing full well that your purview is to support individuals, to support businesses in the country, what role then would you have in lobbying, in pushing to say, can we make it a more conducive environment for the people that we are hedging our business on in the first place?
So there are two things we do today. So as an industry, we've been on the forefront. As KCB, for me, I would say this is our biggest priority today. So when I talk about finding a way to have a pricing model that facilitates every single customer. And I will explain it simply, like if you look at what happens in European markets, People don't need their house to borrow.
Mm.
Isn't it? You get what you call a credit score.
Right.
You've seen that everywhere. South Africa is doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
The credit score from high school is the most important part of who you are. You walk in today, you are A1, you get the best rate. Today, we haven't moved to that model yet. That's one way of demystifying and making sure that every customer plays in the marketplace, gets what they need. That's one item. Are we going there? We are going there yet. That is something that the bank is running, the central bank is running. That's one aspect you're doing. Secondly, for lobbying, not everybody can borrow today without security. So there's what you call like risk-sharing model. You asked about the guarantee schemes that the government introduced last year to enable customers who are taking difficult businesses. I'll give you an example. People did businesses before. Last year, 2 years, supplied. A lot of young people supplied, and the women entrepreneurs supplied, government supplied, counties.
Yeah. Didn't get.
They did their work. They never got their money back. So the issue is to make sure we're involved in that conversations for themselves. But in addition to providing credit, the issue is also enabling that they have information and access to market. This is so important. I always say that an SME cannot operate within their own area. They can't operate alone, isolated environment. So I'll give you an example. If you look at the Standard Group, the media group itself, you have suppliers coming in. Someone is bringing in water in the morning. Someone is bringing food in the afternoon. Someone is transporting them. There's an Uber living. So I have a young man called Peter Kimani who is a chap Uber, correct? I work with him sometimes when I need to move somewhere quicker.
Yes.
He took a loan, correct?
Yes.
To buy that that car. It was a Suzuki. He's driving it, getting $1,000 a day. That's how he takes his kid to school.
Yes.
Are we enabling those? Once we connect that ecosystem, so now within our big pool of Uber we use is one of the guys we use in the office. If you give them a bigger network, our businesses for tomorrow will be driven by what they call churn, by velocity, by scale. That's how we're going to make the money.
That's how you're going to make the money on that. No, let's take a break on that. At about 27 minutes past 8 o'clock, we're in the studio this morning with the Group CEO and Managing Director of KCB, Joshua Yogara. Scintillating conversation this morning. We're going to take a break now, take a look at weather and traffic, and come back and continue with the conversation. Whilst taking a break with our audience on KTN Home, we'll be back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM. The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi at 19, highs of 28 and lows of 17 today. It's sunny at 16 in Nakuru, highs of 28 and lows of 12. 12 will be the low in Nyeri, where it's sunny at 18, highs of 27. And in Eldoret, sunny conditions, highs of 25 and lows of 10. Looking at the sun out in Mombasa as well at 29, highs of 33 and lows of 27. Where in Malindi it's mostly cloudy at 30. It'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 27. It's sunny in Kisumu at 22, highs of 30 and lows of 20. And we're also looking at sunny conditions in Kakamega at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 16. Kampala sunny at 22, we'll see lows of 17. Dar es Salaam, sun's out as well, lows of 26 today. Mostly clear conditions in Lagos, highs of 33 and lows of 25. And at 16 in Johannesburg, it's going to go to highs of 25 and lows of 11 with sunny conditions through today. The sun is out in Kinshasa, 24, highs of 31 and lows of 23.
Thank you. The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Still continues in many parts of the city today. Uhuru Highway, I think, taking the biggest hit today, coming off of Jogo Road as well, quite the stickler. And we're looking at Ngong Road coming from Bagathi Way, quite some traffic as you get to that City Mortuary roundabout area, coming off Langata Road as well. It's also hot coming off the Thika Superhighway. We're seeing that Kiambu Road junction doesn't look pretty at all, folks. This one's coming slowly, bumper to bumper in most parts of the western side of the city as well, coming out of Westlands, Kileleshwa State House, very slow as you come out at the Arboretum. Going towards Westlands or going towards Chiromo, coming out back then towards State House. There we see quite some traffic this morning. We should be out of traffic hour in about an hour or so, but for now, looks like we're going to have to contend with what is Mombasa Road also. Don't forget, you can use the southern bypass. Coming off the Likoni interchange, then onto Mombasa Road as well. Some traffic this morning. Not bad for a Wednesday morning, but hopefully we can get better as the minutes tick by. Are you going to help us out, folks? Please do that on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's text on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
94.4 minutes to 9 o'clock. If you're just tuning in, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. Tuned in to the Situation Room, wherever you're tuned around the country and online, as well as KTN Home this morning. We're in the studio today with Group CEO of KCB, Joshua Oigara. And we're looking at quite a number of issues. And just before we went to the break, I know CT, question.
Every time we have a discussion with key figures and experts in the various disciplines that they represent, there's a question that always arises. You have actually raised it when you've talked about the future. And you talk about the future, you're talking about young people.
Correct.
Now, you have these statistics probably better than I do. What percentage of Kenyans would you say have bank accounts?
Yeah, so today we have, the industry has got 45 million accounts, but that is like, you could have more than one account.
Right.
But what is important in the city is to look at the ones who are able to borrow. Today, we have less than 1/3 of them who are able to access credit.
Okay. I'm glad you've taken the conversation there. You see, I'm going to come back to that. Where I'm going with this conversation is I look at how banks have gotten into corporate social responsibilities of ensuring that people, young people who are unable to further their education, actually get to further their education.
Correct.
Okay? But I do not see sufficient effort being made in getting people from the level of primary to secondary school to understand this industry. Meaning, yes, we know their banks, we know their products, but an actual deliberate process so that banking becomes part of your curriculum. So even as you're studying English
Correct.
and you're studying geography, you also study banking. Not commerce, not economics, banking. So you actually get to understand it. So that by the time somebody's of age, it isn't some confusing situation that they find themselves in. They are able to actually interact with it. Because a lot of the problems that we have
Correct.
is the age at which we interact with the banking industry.
Yeah,
and the baggage we bring with it to the banking industry.
Well, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So I will give you an example, and I will say, ultimately, it's how we look at our own profile of how we've grown up. And it's not just banking. It's about enterprise or building a business. You may have a shop, but how many times do you take your young person to the shop to see how you're doing every day?
Yeah.
How many times?
There are communities who do that, and you can see how it helps their businesses.
And the future about life, and I read a lot. So one of the person I read a lot is Paul Coelho. He talks about, ultimately, the secret for success is failing 7 times and getting up the 8th time.
Right.
Correct? And sometimes that's the nervousness we have. The nervousness we have is that if you take a young person at the age of 3 or 4, to learn how to count money in the cash box, they would disappear with it.
become a
Experience shows that they actually never did if you inform them. So that's really valuable for me. But I would say that what are we doing today? So we have a very aggressive program. So Partner Kwa Ground deals with businesses because not everybody goes into setting up an enterprise, correct? That's what we see. But there's a lot of attempts. So what we do is that through high school, we have a program ourselves, which we call the KCB Scholar Program today, or Achievers Program, where we take, today we have more than 3,000 of them. And we then say, can we build for you some financial knowledge? Can we enable you? Even we actually enable you to build a business, profile it, have your marketing knowledge, and fund it. If we give you the four, I talked about passion, I talked about purpose, I talked about progress. If we get you the four, you're able to make progress. And today we have got close to 11,000 jobs created in the last year from these businesses. So the rest we can do. The banking is your partner, will be with you all the time. Now, will we progress in terms? So literacy is a big thing. That's why I'm here with you today to speak about what the banks are doing to enable small enterprises. And I asked a question I wanted to answer is that enterprises are very big, broad. So we can lend 100 shilling for micros, 1 million shillings for small enterprises, 100 million for medium enterprises, 1 billion shillings for large enterprises. So we are big enough to be a home for everybody as an organization. That is the capabilities we bring. But there's a nuance. They are very interconnected. The 100 shilling person supplies the other person. There's no 100 person working by themselves. Not at all. Schools are my biggest customers I have today. We have more than 50,000 schools as customers. You supply food today for the kids in the morning, correct? Water in the afternoon. That is 1,000 shillings. Without the school, you can't supply. So if I work with the school, and that's why people ask the question: Is government borrowing a big deterrent for business? But government is borrowing to pay bills. As long as the money is being borrowed to pay for enterprise, it's okay. It's absolutely okay.
Now you've touched an issue that's very close to a campaign we're running about government borrowing.
Correct.
And our concern, of course, is that we've been driven into a debt crisis because of borrowing expensively and putting that money in projects that aren't yielding returns. Some of them are maybe even white elephants and continue to guzzle up money. And this borrowing then, of course, is exerting this pull, heavy domestic borrowing, heavy debt repayments, heavy taxation. So we are in this cycle that's really impacting business negatively, impacting many things negatively. So, maybe a small, and of course, creating a difficult environment for the MSMEs to work.
Correct.
What's your reading of the situation?
I tend to take a much higher view. So I will take a 38,000 feet high view because that's important to see debt. And because I speak globally many times, our debt to GDP is an important aspect to look at. There are countries with 100% debt to GDP, 200%.
Even more, yes.
And as long as debt is used for projects that deliver returns, debt will be with us for eternity. It was there before. America is 200% of GDP, as long as you use it for development. And I think the challenges we're facing today, in my view, is a little bit more about unethical business practice, corruption, high cost of... That is what drives problem for business. But if I look at Thika Highway, if I look at the new highway in Mombasa Road, if you were to say a few years ago, tax every single person living 100 meters on Thika Highway, if President Kibaki government make that decision today, we will raise billions of taxes. Because there's value. The road has value. That's what other countries do. The Middle East tax you being on the fast highway if that's what they do. So if you look at, because there's value created for you.
But then they deliver then on the services then that ought to be available for the people.
So this is the challenge I think that private sector must come in.
Right.
A lot of it, I'm always the enabler. I say, look at the people on Thika Road, look at Mombasa Road, look at Mombasa High. If you look at the people they've done, the cost is a different issue. And it's true, some projects will fail, some projects will succeed. But my view that when I look at because I have a lot of successful business people, my SME portfolio today is close to, today, 100 billion. That is how much money I'm lending. It should tell you that there are SMEs that are progressing, they are driving. Do they have challenges? Yes. There's a tax challenge they have. They have an issue of licensing that they have. They have corruption issues that they face. And, we spent time a few years ago pushing the Anti-Bribery Act. So we're also in the center, saying, can we enable them? What lets me down is a business person, Muga, like yourself, doing a business, and then losing it because somebody else wants to be on top of you and not recognizing your effort.
So then, as you've seen, with this huge portfolio that we're talking about, clearly that's where a lot of concentration is. And if we look at the country and what is being... what then would you say are the challenges towards small businesses making it? Because the truth of the matter, Joshua, is that you may have this huge portfolio,
correct,
but it's a small percentage of what could actually be. So what are the challenges that stop these things from happening?
We need to enable them for sure. So payment has been a big problem. Remember I said that earlier. A lot of people, I have many business people who lost their money for doing the right thing. And there's nothing as destructive for a business to do the right thing and lose everything.
Corruption.
So that's one area. So corruption is a big issue, and I think everyone agrees it's a national challenge you have to deal with. But also access to more markets. We can't just be only in a Kenyan market. The region where we operate is a big area for Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, the eastern part of Congo, Tanzania, South Sudan. There's a lot. I see people selling. Why is it possible for us to have a problem for avocados? Where do I have to sell my avocados? In China. I have markets ready to consume them today in the markets. That's the second item. Licensing is another issue that you face. This is one of the biggest problems business people have. They are very nervous. You know, when I go to Rwanda, I'll give you a good example. They have what they call the Rwanda Development Board. You arrive today in the morning, and an hour later you get everything you need. Everything.
1 hour.
Everything. So Claire Kamanzi, who runs that business, they took the Kenyan model. You didn't go nowhere else. One center, which is what you're trying to do here with the Kenya Investment Authority.
Yeah.
Correct? But imagine 1 hour.
It's unimaginable. I'm sorry.
Can I also just say something about the business environment? And the question is, are big banks doing enough about governance, you know, in Kenya? And I'll go back to that debt to GDP.
Correct.
Countries have 150 plus. But if you look at those countries, they denominate that debt in their domestic currency.
True.
They have also got a lot of transparency around that debt. It's long-term debt.
Correct.
It's put in projects that are giving returns. SGR, for instance, of course, you know, has very many issues around it, conflict of interest and all. It's losing money by the day.
Correct.
There was a negative feasibility study around that. World Bank said don't do it. You know, everyone said don't do it. It was done. Edward Okoh, former AG, Auditor General, said this is budgeted corruption.
Correct.
Money designed to be stolen. Now, unfortunately, because many of these corruption schemes have gone on and government is then in contracts where they are forced to pay, the impact is felt by the wider business community.
Correct.
So the question I'm asking is that diagnosis correct? And what's the recovery? Because if we are in, you know, our reading is we're in a debt trap. We are borrowing to pay debt. In fact, illegally, the Auditor General has, in her recent report, said government is borrowing to pay salaries.
Correct.
This is unconstitutional because it's been done, you know, over the last 3-4 years repeatedly because of this debt trap. So this situation we find ourselves in is impacting business in that when you look at the statistics, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics shows us Kenya is losing competitiveness regionally. The cost of doing business is very high. Part of this has to do with the exchange rate, and that's linked to the repayment of in foreign currency. Yeah. So the question I'm saying is that the dynamics around debt have far-reaching impacts, and these are linked to governance. Is the banking sector, especially because of its critical role in the macroeconomic sector, doing enough to deal with this problem and also doing enough to deal with the accountability of it?
So I actually tell you two things, and I will speak more for me because we provide debt for business. So just to answer your question directly, even for a smaller business, if you don't manage your debt well, it will destroy your business.
Right.
It's always like that, even individually. So I will agree with you. Debt isn't a bad issue, in my view.
Right.
It is really how you deploy the debt. And that's what we do in terms of financial literacy management. You know how much effort we spend working with our customers, SMEs, getting more information, getting the networking that you have, getting business reviews, because that helps you. Because even our customers borrow debt sometimes to manufacture, sometimes they borrow to pay salaries, sometimes they pay. That's what happens in business. But as long as you can see your cash flows coming, and I would say globally, most countries borrow. What we need to do for ourselves is make sure that we're pushing government enough to put in more money into SME, women enterprises, youth enterprises, and support them very strongly. There is no point of saying we have, and this is something we work very closely. We do like the AGPO, you know, the access of government procurement opportunities, 30%. We haven't reached even 10% of it today. And even the 10%, correct? You are supplying water. I want my women entrepreneurs to supply the caterpillar equipment.
Right.
The high,
because they're able.
high value.
That is when you have completely matched it. If you're going to supply just, maybe like, let's say like something like water, it's not enough. So I want to assure you that model banks are doing. We're also pushing around a guarantee scheme to help. Because partial guarantee schemes help the businesses which are not able to provide their securities and run their business. And they could fail also in the businesses.
Sure.
Those three aspects. And then finally for us in Partner Kwa Ground, we're saying we connect you on the chain. It's a hub and spoke game. The way you succeed, if you're a smaller business today, I'll give you an example. If I set up a taxi business today and I put it way in Kehancha, correct? And I don't have someone else in Migori, someone else in Kisii, someone in that I can connect with. And maybe the way to answer it is like the travel companies. I have a visitor coming from Nairobi coming here. There are people who do Nairobi tours.
Right.
They earn money by just taking you to Nairobi town.
Yeah.
You go to the museum, you come back. They earn. This is not ecosystem. If you are alone and you're waiting for someone from London to take them to Nairobi tour, where will you find them? So that ecosystem is what SMEs require and micro enterprises require. It's not easy, and therefore we have to push more forward. The policy is there. I think every year the president has talked about supporting and enabling SMEs. The question is, what are we doing as industry to support them? That's why we launched our Partner Kwa Ground initiative.
I want to ask you a question, a compound question.
Correct.
One, when you talk about SMEs, what do you mean?
Correct.
When you talk about medium,
correct.
But what do you mean?
Correct.
How do you categorize them? How do you determine them?
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
If I, as an employee,
True.
right now,
True.
I started, what is Standard Chartered? Then I realized it's Standard Media House.
That would have been interesting.
For the bank, you can only think about KCB. You cannot think about another bank.
I knew you were not going to let that one go.
Yes.
No, I wasn't going to let that one go. How do you determine this?
So today it's actually quite easy in terms of the classification. So you have startups, people who are just starting a business, which we love very much. Correct? And these are like anybody else today who is doing businesses up to 100,000 shillings. And a lot of border businesses is there. Smaller restaurants are in there. That's where you find them. People supplying schools. Then you got micro enterprises today, which are doing anything in about 1 million shillings. Correct? And then you have people who are now really pushing. Your medium businesses, by the way, goes all the way to 1 billion.
Yeah.
It's a big range.
That's medium.
Yeah. And then your large enterprises now is above 1 billion. But the way we work in KCB, up to 250 million shillings of debt, or we believe that you are now moved into a large enterprise. You believe so. That's a big size today. So that's how we look at different, like schools, many of them. So that group works.
So it's just is it the money that they're able to borrow?
True.
Is it the number of people they employ?
So there are 3 classifications today.
Yes.
We tend to use how much their turnover is or how much they borrow. Other models, you look at how many employees you have. But when you do the overall assessment, it comes to the same thing, usually. But the ones you see, like if I use an example, Juakali, you go to the Gikomyo market, they are everywhere in the sun. And we call them Juakali, but that's a real business. People have been there for 30 years.
It's what's holding the economy together, some would argue, right?
Absolutely. And what we need to do, what we're doing as KCB today and fighting and working very hard today as a bank and working with us is to make sure that their potential is realized. Yeah, and we have, and that's why we put in money behind them. Would they leave that place, go somewhere else? My view is that they will not. That is their home. You never leave your business. You only grow. So it's like a funnel. You start there, you know how to make your karai, you make your sufuria, you make your cups, you leave, you move somewhere else. And that model is what is translating everything else in the region. That's the value we do.
That group of people.
Correct.
You've been supporting them for quite some time.
Correct.
Do you have a portfolio of the numbers who've stopped producing 2-3 sufurias to the point where they actually have equipment which
major
is capital
supplier.
intensive so that they become a major supplier? Because we're talking about growth. And you have them.
So I do have a good example. I mean, like, you'll be surprised a number of hotels today, when they're doing their kitchens, they're doing their beds. You don't see the beds being made today, even in Gong Road. We have a number of people who transition into workshopping. They create a center today. Some are here just on Mombasa Road, some are on Enterprise Road. And that is a natural push. Not everybody does. And if you think about the evolution of those businesses, like what has happened in countries like Malaysia, is that you have an aggregator of sorts, if I use that word. Correct? I mean, like if you want to make this table today, a person makes the standing leg, a guy makes the top, another one makes the screws, makes the hinges. They are all different businesses. One guy
Somebody comes and puts it together.
And today, furniture is being delivered on cartons. It looks impossible a few years ago. But today is what happens. So we have that model. The challenge we have to do is make sure that that everybody is supporting them financially and make sure they have the access to go to market. Because infrastructure is a big problem for a lot of our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
You try and run a smaller business today, and what KCB is doing then say, we will be able to open doors for you. Biashara Club does that. We bring in all entrepreneurs in healthcare, hospitals, dispensaries. We try and put them together. In that, you unlock. Part of it is also learning who is doing. Information is power for business today. If you don't know that you can be able to connect and get a route, it's just like Uberization of business. If you don't know that you can connect into a network, that's what builds businesses today. So that I can guarantee you. It doesn't mean that the issue should not be to close down Gekomba. The issue is how many scalers do we get who can then build businesses for bigger markets. That's
yeah,
what
can I, Joshua, on that? Because the issue is that graduation scale.
Correct.
How many?
Correct.
Because if you look at the MSME sector, there's that group that is easily engaged that you're already working with.
Correct.
How do you then get this other group that are still survivalist?
Correct.
And they're survivalist because maybe education exposure. They're in that business because they couldn't get means elsewhere.
Correct.
You know, they're operating in an environment that's actually not conducive to growth.
Correct.
And those businesses are really survival. Hand to mouth. It's almost hand to mouth, day-to-day survival.
Correct.
As opposed to this category that you can now pull into the program. How do we scale what you're doing to this other cadre? Because it's very commendable. It's so important to support and to link. But a majority are still outside of that bracket. Any ideas on how to pull in these others so that these jobs can become more meaningful?
So our model today, so we say we have 7.5 million businesses that we see in Kenya, of which only 1.5 are registered. So those are the ones you see formally available. So it's the other group. And so there are 3 things that we're doing on partner ground. So across our networks, we made it easier for them to access credit. So whether it's on the digital side today, we can lend today anything up to 1 million shillings on our mobile instantaneously. And they're pre-scored. That's one thing that they need. Number 2, you need to link them into a larger business. So a perfect example today. You're running a transport businesses. You've got 1 truck. We can get you into a larger customer who has got the business for 500 trucks. That's how you scale. Yeah, and from there, you have 2 trucks. You have 5 trucks. You become 10. You have to start. Remember, in business, the one thing I like to encourage the startup businesses, there's nothing wrong in starting small. Every larger business, including Amazon, was started in a garage. The idea that you start a business and tomorrow you have 10 trucks, this is where corruption comes from our country. All of us, there's magnanimity in starting small. If you can do it smaller, you can scale. And then thirdly, we have to provide more training. So the partner ground builds a lot of conversations with leaders, myself being here, because that's what gives them the confidence to be able to move on. If those 3 happen, I can assure you this year, the 1.5, and registration is also a challenge they're facing. Licensing issues, tax issues. And when we're interceding on tax, I am one person who has been very much challenging and saying they should be given access to do their business without being harassed.
Sure. I mean, I think that's one thing that will be remembered, because I think that what happens here, and maybe you can, either confirm or deny that what happens is that when people present themselves at your doors, looking for credit, for example, or trying to become bankable, that's when now you're greeted with a plethora of other problems that exist.
Correct.
Lack of education, lack of this other infrastructure that's needed. They're not tax compliant, right? So these things you see all of them by virtue of the fact that somebody has come to the bank and said, okay, look, I need some help here. Now, these people come to you probably more in number than they go anywhere else.
Correct.
Do you then see there is a responsibility then that lies in your hands, even as this conversation comes to a head?
Correct.
That lies in your hands then to consolidate all of these under one umbrella and say, look, I mean, I'm the bank, but here we are. I have my brother who can educate here.
Correct.
I have my brother who can educate on taxes.
Correct.
And bring all of that together for the end goal of bringing up that 7.5 million, who's that 1.5 million now really, but getting it to that 7.5 million.
Today,
do you see that responsibility at your doorstep?
Absolutely. And we've already, this is why this program is so important for us as a group. So in the past, this was like in the past. Today, if you come in, you have no registrations, we will take you on board. So actually we have today close to 420 business bankers who do business development. So today they don't have to come to us anymore at all. So in the past we ask you, your check had bounced before, correct? I mean, that's it happens in business, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We know it happens to us.
Mm.
You know, we live in a real world,
Mm.
correct? I haven't registered for this. I haven't paid for this. So today we provide them with the finance. So our business development managers have a lot of knowledge. They do the tax work. They'll help them on the marketing side, the legal side. So we've changed that model. Today we give you credit for the business. We look at the cash flows. Everything else is built on. So we have demystified that model, and this program is pushing credit for you for the enterprise you have or you're starting. So those barriers, we are leading in terms of unconstructing those barriers. And we also came up with the partial guarantee program to say, even if you have nothing to offer today, we have unsecured lending at the branch. Today you can walk in and get up to 3 million. Today.
So, Joshua, if
as a business,
as a business, it wasn't there before.
Joshua,
No security.
if we leave the
but
studio
can I ask that
today,
question?
Correct.
Sorry, Siti, can I just ask a question? Because
Yeah.
government
But,
avail this.
Our
this-
time's actually running to a head right now.
The-
So, I mean, I want to take that last one from you,
Correct.
really quickly,
Correct.
Joshua. Your message today, in terms of now going forward and saying this is where business lies, this is what we need to be looking at. I've got to wrap it up, but you know.
So our ambition, I mean, we are a purpose-driven organization. I talked about earlier that there must be, progress, there is passion, and there is passion for what we do. And our real purpose of organization is to enable progress. So every area, and this is the form of our organization as KCB. It's you're starting a business, we want to make you to grow. We will support you through the journey. And Partner Kwa Ground enables you that every single way, where you had a question, where you had an issue, get in touch with us. We'll get in touch to you as an organization. We'll give you the credit. We'll give you the support. We'll give you the funding. We'll give you the network and information. 3 things you get. You get access to the credit that you're looking for. You get access to information through the networks we have through Biashara clubs that we are available. And lastly, you get access to market, because in our pool, we're the largest lender today in medium to large institutions, by far. Correct? And we are making you to happen, to log into that conversation. And that is where we believe that by this year, we intend to recruit 1 million new SMEs into our portfolio in this program.
We hate to let you go, Joshua, and time really does fly when you're having fun. But we have to. And we hope that you will come again. You know, there are many more issues that we can look at that are important to. Group CEO of KCB, Joshua Igara, thank you so much for being in the Situation Room this morning, and we hope that this will not be the last time that you will join us.
Great having me this morning. I enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
I will definitely be back. Thank you.
Asante Sana. We're taking a break now at 2 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is the Situation Room.
Great.
I will answer you the question on
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
At 1.5 minutes to 10 o'clock. So we've been having conversation this morning on the situation, Kenya's biggest conversation, about how we're really looking at, what can really be the way in which we go about really boosting the economy, making sure that we are making the right strides. It's been fun having Joshua Igara in studio with us today. The conversations continue this morning, and then we will be looking at, in a short while, how the legal profession is being bolstered by education in this country, and we will be joined by the Riara University legal departments and looking at that. It has been Kenya's biggest conversation. Wherever you're tuned in around the country, 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.7 in Eldoret, 97.7 in Malindi, 90.9 in Nyeri, 96.0 in Nakuru. We're live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter around the country. The conversation continues. Okoh, CT, Muga, Wanjiru, Gikonyo in the studio with you this morning. Coming around to 9 o'clock, we'll hear the news and we'll come back. And the conversation does continue. It is Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The government may have to pay an Italian firm 80 billion shillings if the courts rule in favor of the firm. DPP Nurine Haji stated that if the government is found guilty of violating public property procurement and tender rules, then it will have to pay the money to CMC Di Ravenna Itinera joint venture. The prosecutor in charge of the case, Latiff, told the Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi that they were ready to prove to the court how former Treasury CS Henry Rotich and his accomplices had conspired to steal more than 65 billion shillings allocated for the project. Kenya has recorded an increase in the number of road fatalities, recording 4,023 deaths between January and November 2021. According to data released by government spokesperson Cyrus Aguna, the number is higher as compared to 3,340 deaths recorded in the same period last year. Of the total number of deaths recorded this year, motorcyclists accounted for the most, with 1,508 of them succumbing to injuries after road accidents, pedestrians recording 1,372, passengers with 664, while drivers accounted for 403. Now, if you're planning to travel using the Madaraka Express, you will be required to arrive at the railway station at least 1 hour before their scheduled departure. The Kenya Railways has announced that the decision by the management had been occasioned by the increasing number of travelers as the festive season approaches and enhanced security checks. The corporation further assured the public of seamless service a day after the SGR passenger train was delayed by almost 2 hours following an unscheduled stop between Mtito and Kibwezi. It later emerged that a section of the rail had been vandalized by unknown individuals. The Ministry of Health is expected to launch another mass vaccination exercise against COVID-19 Friday this week for a period of 10 days. According to COVID-19 Vaccination Task Force Chairperson Willis Ahwale, the government must achieve its target of vaccinating 10 million people by the end of this year. The activity will take place in churches, health centers, Matatu Terminai, among others.
Let me actually state clearly that our target is 10 million vaccinations by end of December and 26 million fully vaccinated end of 2022. Currently, we are at 6.4 million vaccinations. So if we start doing 100,000 per day for the next 30 days, and you add to the 6.4, we are very close to 10 million vaccinations.
Others will be vaccinated. For the vaccine are children between the ages of 15 and 17 who will be vaccinated using the Pfizer vaccine.
At the moment, we are going to start with our vaccination centers. The teenagers can walk in with their guardian, they give verbal approval, and they get vaccinated. As we move ahead, we will work with the Ministry of Education and see better strategies to reach them, because we must know that they are the main carriers of the virus. They may not be sick, but they cause the suffering of the elderly people.
Still on COVID-19, and WHO has warned that a further 700,000 people could die of COVID by March in Europe and parts of Asia. The death toll already exceeds 1.5 million in the 53 countries of what the WHO terms as its Europe region. The WHO warned if high or extreme stress in its intensive care units in 49 of the nations by March 2022. Europe is facing a surge in cases, prompting Austria to return to lockdown and others to consider fresh measures. A number of countries, including France, Germany and Greece, could also soon make booster jabs a requirement for their citizens to be considered fully vaccinated. The United Kingdom recorded 42,484 new cases. These as Newswire and Standard Group continues to urge you to get out there, get vaccinated so that you can protect yourself and those that you love. Now, the permanent mission of Kenya to the United Nations has applauded the people and the government of Iraqi for successfully holding parliamentary elections. The mission says the exercise reaffirmed strong commitment to the fundamental democratic principle that vests the authority of government in the will of the people. Kenya's permanent representative to the UN Ambassador Martin Kimani urged the newly elected leaders to be aware of the critical importance of ensuring that the laws they pass that shape the state should embrace all Iraqis regardless of ethnicity, religion or origin. And Kenya Ports Authority clinched the 2021 FIBA Zone 5 Women's title by edging out bitter rivals Equity Hawks 71-35 in an all-Kenyan final at the National Indoors Arena at Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Poised as one of the fiercest finals clashes in recent times, both sides had made the cut for the final clash, riding on a stellar campaign as they proved peerless, having won all their matches in an all-round robin tournament. In the semi-finals, KPA overcame Burundi's Gladiators thanks to an 83-40 blowout, while Equity Hawks edged out host Don Bosco 76-36 to set up the mouth-watering all-Kenyan final. However, KPA's all-conquering form was the decider in the finals as they blew out the bankers by a 36-point margin to reclaim the crown they had relinquished to Uganda's JKL Dolphins in 2019. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
A few minutes after 9 o'clock, and we still have quite a lot of traffic on these Nairobi streets. We're looking at it coming in heavy on Valley Road today, getting into Kenyatta Avenue. That doesn't look too pretty. And also on Gong Road as you get into the city as well. That still continues. But Gathi Way at 5 after 9 o'clock is as packed as it was 5 after 6. On Jogo Road today, heading out into Landis Road and that Kamkunji roundabout. Then everybody meets on Haile Selassie Avenue. That's an absolute mess, just in case you're wondering. And then coming off Moranga Road, getting to that Globe Cinema overpass, joining with Kipande Road, everybody coming off of the Thika Superhighway. It's reduced significantly on Kiambu Road, but still continues on Thika Road today. That whole Pangani area doing a dance with traffic today. Not too pretty. Mombasa Road doesn't look too bad right now. So we're going to contend with what we can contend with. Hopefully we get out of it without too much of a scratch. If you do, I don't know. But for now, that's what it looks like, guys. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's chat on text on 40127. We want to keep things moving as much as possible. Take a look at what it looks like in about half an hour.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur,
8 minutes past 9 o'clock, you're tuned into Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room, and in the studio today with you, Ndu Okoh, CT Muga, Wanjiru Gikonyo, with us today. And as we kick off the final hour of this show today, let's do that with today's proverb, CT, shall we?
Right. Asifuye mvua imemnyea. Whoever praises the rain has been rained on. Well, you can also say whoever curses the rain
has probably been rained on too.
No, that one has been drenched.
Whoever curses the rain has also been rained on.
Yes.
Okay. So, as we're kicking off the final hour of the show today, we're going to be looking at education. Education as pertains to the legal side of things, right? And joining us in the studio today is Dr. Victor Lando, who is a lecturer Riara University School of Law, and we're also talking online virtually with Collins Oluoch, who is an alumnus of the School of Law at the Riara University here in Nairobi. We're going to be looking at how Riara is unlocking new frontiers in legal education in the country. So before we even get into all of that, let's just say a big situation and welcome to you. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you.
Collins, welcome to you as well. Karibu. Okay, so we're going to jump into it, Dr. Lando. When we think about legal education, when you think about the law is the law, right? It's legal. This is what you learn. Assuming that most people will get into some kind of legal profession, whether you're going to be lawyering, whether you're going to be a legal advisor, whatever it is going to be, but all of this will be hinged and hedged on the law. Now, When we talk about new approaches, new frontiers, unlocking things, are there then things that people did not know, or that the education sector, as concerned legal studies, then had not been encompassing previously? I guess that's where we start off with this today.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me today. A big hello from myself and the entire community at Riara Law School and Riara University. So thank you very much. Now, about legal education, as you have rightly said, there are so many opportunities available when someone studies law. You don't have to be a courtroom trial lawyer when you study law. You can be a parliamentary advisor. You can be a legislative advisor. You can be a judge. You can work for the UN. You can work for an international NGO. Or you can go into politics and become a member of parliament or a senator. Quite a number of our senators, our MPs, or have legal backgrounds. So first, it's just to say that there are so many opportunities available, both nationally and internationally, for someone who has a law degree. So you do not have to confine yourself to be a courtroom-going person. There are so many other opportunities, even in tech, in terms of how the law interfaces with technology. There's quite a number of diverse opportunities there. And so that is the first point, that lawyers are not only courtroom-going people. We also have other diverse opportunities for people who have studied law. Now, in terms of legal education, we are in the middle or at the start of the fourth industrial revolution, the tech revolution. And so the law, unfortunately, in most cases, it follows. It doesn't really lead. It follows science, unfortunately. And so with the advent of tech, there are so many diverse opportunities there, for example, in terms of artificial intelligence. How do you assign liability if an autonomous car hits you? So who's liable? Is it the person who owns it, or the manufacturer, or who? So all those little they're called terms and conditions when you're buying an autonomous vehicle. Who drafts those? So there are so many opportunities, for example, in tech, in innovation, intellectual property. Now we are developing, for example, when they're developing the vaccines for COVID and other diseases, for example. Who owns the intellectual property to that vaccine? Right. When we had the first batch of vaccines developed, there was a concept of compulsory acquisition or compulsory use of a vaccine. Here I have developed a vaccine, I've spent millions of dollars on it, and then because of the benefit to humanity, I may not be able to reap the benefits of that because of the provision for compulsory acquisition by the state. So how do we have intellectual property lawyers who then protect the intellectual property of those who are in the middle of innovations? Even in biotechnology, we are in the middle of creating, for example, cloning animals, research in terms of plants and everything, plant varieties. So those are emerging scenarios, emerging areas of law, in addition to the existing framework of the law, which has now required to be tweaked to respond to some of these opportunities and challenges in the 21st century. So the legal education as we know it that happened in the 60s or the 70s now has changed, even in terms of how universities present, for example, present the course, the study of law has changed. We are now moving from face-to-face classroom type learning interactions to more of virtual type interactions. So, for example, at Riara Law School, we were lucky that even pre-COVID, the university had procured a learning management system. There was a software in place. We were doing what was called blended learning prior to COVID. So when COVID came, then what we did was just to plug and play, because we already had the systems, the staff were trained, and so we didn't have an uphill task when it came to doing virtual learning, online learning, digital learning. So in a nutshell,
you had seen the trend.
Yes.
Can I say, linked to the fourth revolution, the information age, how are you dealing with the soft skills? Because you're talking about the legal education. It's really impressive that you're looking at the method of delivery being aligned to the times. You're also looking at the content. What about the soft skills that go with it? Because we are seeing one of them with the proliferation of technology is information literacy. Being able to decipher information. You can have the legal knowledge, but as a world citizen, are you able to decipher, this proliferation of knowledge? Are you dealing with soft skills, or is that not necessarily part of what you did? We were talking earlier also about financial literacy.
Yes.
Having individuals who are able to manage their lives. You can make a lot of money, but you're then not able to manage it because you don't have these skills. They're not taught in school. And we're talking earlier about infusing these in programs to support businesses, but everybody needs information literacy, needs financial literacy. Are these some of the things you've thought about?
Yes. Two points, actually, two things. Firstly, there's a meeting that we had a few months ago at Naivasha it was courtesy of the Kenya School of Law and the Council for Legal Education, and we were looking at the legal education sector as a whole. And Riara University and other universities had been invited. And that was part of the conversation, actually, that how do we train 21st century lawyers, who are able to operate in a 21st century environment. And so there is an ongoing conversation. For example, I know that there is a curriculum review by the Kenya School of Law that is geared towards some of these things, addressing some of these challenges. Now, at the Riara Law School at Riara University, we have we took that up a while back. I think in 2019, there was a partnership between Riara University and ARC Africa, where they were training our students on soft skills. So we have, as part of the curriculum, issues to do with computer literacy, information literacy, entrepreneurship. So those are skills that all law students or all students who pass through the Riara University, come across. And also we have opportunities for them to link with the market, so that when we have guest lecturers coming in or guest speakers coming in, or internship opportunities coming up, or in the legal environment we call it clinical attachment, where they are attached to a legal department in a law firm or in a bank or in parliament or in any other legal department, and they're able to learn on the job, so to speak. So the whole journey from first year to the end of fourth year, they have very immense opportunities to engage, and it is a deliberate thing that the university is doing to develop those soft skills for the students.
Okay.
Because we are training 21st century lawyers who should be able to respond to 21st century challenges. Yes.
So for you, Collins, I mean, having gone through this coursework, what opportunities do you see, this kind of learning? What has it unlocked for you in terms of opportunities, and how? You may not be able to compare because clearly you didn't get a previous legal education, but here you are in this time. What opportunities have been unlocked that you've then been able to access?
Thank you so much. Allow me first to express my sincere indebtedness to Riara University for this opportunity to come and represent them and talk on behalf of the alumni of Riara University. When I was given this opportunity, I had a dilemma. I mean, I didn't know how to describe an institution that has impacted my life so much. When you talk about the kind of opportunities that have opened up for me, one, I think, at the very onset, Riara University demystifies legal education. Because, when you think about law, you think about how rigid it is, you think about the book that you're going to read, you think about how toxic the environment is going to be, for lack of a better word. But I think, for me, my experience in Riara University was totally demystified. One, with regards to the delivery of it, to the fusion of the unit with other things. For instance, right from first year, we were learning things to do with ethics and integrity. We did leadership and democracy. We did creative and critical thinking in first year. So those things they demystified how we thought legal education looked like. When you talk about the delivery of that unit, Riara has approached a system that is called Socratic system, whereby Socratic system is whereby you go read for yourself, and then you come and have a conversation that people like Dr. Lando will be facilitators for that conversation. They'll not be lecturers. So in that way, we found learning law to be so easy. When I talk about the opportunities, right from when I was in campus, there are a lot of opportunities that opened up for me, even before I left campus. One, I just want to say, Dr. Lando was my first employer. He employed me in his law firm to undertake clinical attachment. We have mooting competitions in the institution. And in Vienna, we believe that it's an incubator for dreams and for aspirations, and it's a catalyst for you to be able to be pushed to whatever thing you want to pursue. When I joined Riara, I did not even own a passport. But by the time I was completing my studies in Riara, I had traveled to 8 countries because of mooting competitions. We went to London and we became number 3 worldwide. We went to Dublin and we became number 4, I think, worldwide. We've mooted all the way from London to South Africa to Uganda to 8 countries. Personally, those are the ones that I've mooted in, and those are the kind of opportunities that have opened up for me. When you look at the job market, people look at Riara University and private universities in a way that people think we are spoon-fed with the teaching that goes on there. But the equalizer for us is Kenya School of Law.
Yeah.
Because when you get to Kenya School of Law, then you are able to separate the chaff from the wheat, because all of us are there from all law schools.
Indeed.
And when you do the exams there, the bar exams, and you're able to compare and see, this is the number of intake from Riara University, and this is the number of people that have passed the 9 Ps. I mean, then it's like day and night. You cannot start saying that these people are spoon-fed while they were in campus, and now here, where we are not with our lecturers, we are excelling. Beyond that, currently, I'm in Mombasa working with National Assembly. That is another opportunity that has opened up for me. I think with regards to absorption of the alumni of Riara University, the job market is close to 100%, unless those who are chosen to progress academic-wise and to further their studies. Those who not further their studies, they have been absorbed, all of them. And we do a survey every year before our graduation so that we can present it to people. We do our survey, and we've seen the beauty of Riara University is that if you're coming there and you want to be a leader, you are going to hone your leadership, and at the same time, you are going to ensure that whatever thing brought you here, insofar as education is concerned, you're not left behind. And that is one of the biggest opportunities I got from it, to be able to learn law, to be able to get leadership skills, and at the end of the day, to be able to laugh as much as possible.
Right.
Because the journey was so much fun packed.
And as you talk about those courses that you're being taught, it sounds excellent. Sounds like what's needed. And I'm very excited you're talking about, did you say leadership and integrity, democracy and, did you say democracy and good governance? And the question I then have is, what's the application? Because it's great to teach it theoretically. How are you linking it into the reality, the context we are living in? And more to the point is, from a university point of view, what impact do you expect these students to make when they enter into the market, which is very devoid of those qualities? And in fact, the legal profession is part of the problem. We are seeing actually corruption has morphed with very smart lawyers, financial experts, being the conduits for very high-tech corruption that government can't track. Now, you can't deal with individual behavior and choice, but of course, education orients people a certain way. So how well are you preparing your students to contribute positively in dealing with the governance problems that bedevil the country?
Okay, that's addressed to me, or
well, maybe we start with you, Dr. Lando. Maybe we start with you, then we can hear from the alumnus. Yeah.
Okay. For us, as Real Law School and the university at large, our philosophy is that we want to not create, but we want to imbue certain values in our students, right? So we are not just churning out graduates and that is it. We want them to be global citizens. responsible citizens. And we also have this thing of having African awareness and the African Renaissance infused into them, that they are not only global citizens, but they are responsible Kenyans, and they are part of the African community, and they should not lose their identity as Africans, and that Africans have some value to bring to the global scene. So, and arising out of that, we take very special care to it's called what? To demonstrate to them, to our students, the values of integrity, the values of good leadership, good citizenship. You know, that practicing law is not only just about getting a career which can earn you some money, but also about contributing to society. And that is part of the reason why Riara is located at Kibera. You know, the founders were very conscious that we want this to be a place where we can even engage with the community around. And we do have, sometimes we do have legal clinics that we do with the community in Kibra to just provide some limited legal support and limited legal advice to them. And in the near future, we are partnering with Kituo cha Sheria to be able to have a more structured legal aid framework where the students themselves engage in providing legal aid and support to people who may not have access to legal support. Because legal services are very expensive. And when you engage with the justice sector, you find that there are very many people who are unfairly treated, and they are in jail or in custody unfairly. And all they need is just a lawyer to go and speak on their behalf. Yes.
All right. I think we hear from you when we take this short break, Collins, and then come back and hear how then this impacts on you personally after having gone through this education and trying to imbibe some of those qualities. At 27 past 9 o'clock, this is Kenya's Biggest Conversation. We're going to take a break now, also for our audience on KTN Home, and come back and continue with the conversation. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money is our money and my money is my money.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
There are thousands of jobs in construction and real estate waiting just for you. Listen to Double O Direct from 10 a.m. this Saturday on 94.4 SpiceFM, streaming live on standardmedia.co.ke. Jobs in construction and real estate. A special Double O Direct with me, Olivia Otieno, brought to you by Mabati Rolling Mills. MRM, 60 years of quality building solutions. Ukiweka, umeweka.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi at 22, highs of 28 and lows of 17. And it's sunny at 19 in Nakuru, highs of 28 as well, lows of 14. Nyeri is sunny. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 12. While in Eldoret, it's sunny as well at 25. That'll be the high, coming down to lows of 13. Sunny Mombasa today, highs of 33. It's going to be quite warm and lows of 27. In Malindi, 30 as well. Cloudy conditions, however, highs of 32 and lows of 27. And we're looking at the sun out in Kisumu at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 20. While in Kakamega, it's sunny with 27, highs of 30 and lows of 16. Out in Kampala, sunny conditions as well. 29 will be the high and lows of 17. And the sun's out in Dar es Salaam at 30, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Indeed, the sun is out as well in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 12, and Lagos is sunny at 25, highs of 33 and lows of 25, and the sun is also out in Kinshasa, 31 and lows of 23. For some reason, the sun is out and it's freezing in Beijing. We'll see highs of 12 and lows of -2, 2 degrees and cloudy in Paris, highs of 6 and lows of 1. And in New York, 1 degree, clear, highs of 9 and lows of 12. And look at cloudy conditions in Paris, highs of 7 and lows of 4.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, it should be dying down, but it's not. Quite a lot of traffic in certain parts of the city still continuing in the western part of the city, coming out State House, then through to Westlands, etc., etc. Don't forget Red Hill Link Road, trying to get out of the city. That's your go-to street. Kenyatta Avenue is taking a hit, coming off of Valley Road, and folks who are coming off from Gong Road, then down Valley Road, using that option. It's still packed. All roads still heading into the CBD, coming off Limuru Road. That still continues to be quite something. And we're also looking at traffic at Kamkunji. That started pretty early, and it's not knocking off, at least not for now. Coming off Mombasa Road doesn't look too bad right now. Industrial area, that entire circuit of Likoni, Lusaka, Lunga out onto the Likoni interchange on Mombasa Road. Looking better on Jogo Road right now. We're dying down and coming out of traffic hours soon. So hopefully it shouldn't be too sticky as we go along. What does it look like in your neck of the woods? Talk to us on Spice FM KE through the morning. Text on 40127 as best as you can. Keep it moving.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
We're on
94.4 Spice FM.
Kenya's biggest conversation in Nairobi and around the country, and also online, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And welcome once again to our audience on KTN. Home we continue with the conversation this morning, and we're unlocking opportunities, unlocking what can actually be achieved through legal education. And Riara is showing us how this morning. In the studio today, CT Muga Okoh and Wanjiru Gikonyo, joined by Dr. Victor Lando from Ria University's Law School, as well as an alumnus of the university, Collins Oloch, who is currently in Mombasa. And you have an opportunity, having worked with the university, and just before we went on break, telling us, okay, some of the things you learned, leadership and integrity, good governance, some of these qualities. Asking the question, how then have you been able to use your education then in life and work?
Thank you so much. To whom much is given, much is required. And you know how you can be able to evaluate the output of what you've been given is in the positions that you've been given of responsibility. To me, I believe how you can measure a Riara graduate or an alumni of Riara is through the responsibilities that have been granted. But even before we even left campus, just right in campus, as Dr. Lando has stated, that even the positioning of Riara is strategic. We are there to be able to first influence in the community in Kibra. But beyond that, Riara Law School has a law review. This is one of the platforms that we've used to challenge the kind of legislation that we have in the country. We've submitted memoranda as students for the laws that have been passed. We've written as a Riara law review to the National Assembly, clerk of the National Assembly, to make our contributions to laws that we think affect us. Even right from the Universities Amendment Act, we've made submissions there, and we even appeared before Education Committee in the National Assembly to make our presentations. That is one of the opportunities that we've had to contribute to the country and to the legislations that are made in this country. Two is the legal aid clinic. We know as a country we are embracing the access to justice, but this is not really a reality because a lot of people, as Dr. Lando has said, they're in jail because of lack of legal representation. And so we've been able to set this right from the community that we are in Kibra. We've been able to impact the people in Kibra by conducting, I think we'll be now doing the third or the fourth edition of the legal aid clinic this year. And we've been able to reach out to those communities, pick up cases that we can solve at that level. There are cases that do not need to go to court and that we've been able to solve at that level. There are those that have been taken up and they proceeded to court. And when I was there as a student, and I think it's still ongoing now in the law review and in the other law club, they become a research port for the lawyers who've taken the matters to court. And so this is how we are contributing, and this is how we are transforming that space. But finally, when you go to Riara Law School and Riara University as a whole, you will not realize the presence of lecturers or the presence of the administration, because the students are always the ones at the forefront. The students are the ones leading. And you'll never hear anything about violence or about riots in Riara University, because the responsibility that has been bestowed on the students insofar as leadership is concerned, they are able to put that in practice, and the administration can supervise and see that. If it's about petitioning for the grievances, we have channels and we have systems of doing so. If it's about discipline, we are the ones at the forefront of ensuring that we're instilling discipline amongst our peers. So I think for us, the responsibility that we've been given, and through the training that we've undergone, that is leadership and governance, that is ethics and integrity, we've been able to put that in practice even before we've graduated. And I believe the more we've had that inculcated, it has become part of us and has become our behavior. So it's so hard for us to depart from it.
Collins, you have sold Riara University beautifully. If I wanted to study law, I would actually think this Riara is the place to go, because it is clearly, from what you say, student-centered, focus on what the learner is actually going to benefit. Actually, learning is all about that, if you think about it, from whatever level.
True.
Walk us through these clinics that you speak of. What happens? How, when you get there, how do you determine who qualifies to be at the clinic? How do you handle the issues? How many people go through this clinic in the course of, say, a year? How many cases do you take to court? How many are resolved without going to court?
Okay. So before we started this legal clinic, the first thing we did was to get in contact with the paralegals that are in Kibera. We partnered with an organization called...
Who is a paralegal?
Okay. We have an advocate, a lawyer, and a paralegal. An advocate is a lawyer who, after undergoing training, they've gone to Kenya School of Law and done advocate training program, and passed what you say 9 Ps is passing at the Kenya School of Law, and then now they admitted to the bar. A lawyer is the one who just completed law school. And then a paralegal goes for a training called paralegal studies. They are offered equally in Kenya School of Law. That is the level. So we partnered with an organization called Beauty of Hope that is in Kibera, and we trained their paralegals. We realized that their paralegals were lastly trained, I think, in 2006. And you realize that the Constitution is as old as 2010. So they are not familiar with the Constitution.
And how many of these people did you train?
46 of them.
Go on.
And these are people who've been there solving legal issues, and they are not aware of the new legal dispensation that we have. So the first thing for us was to take them through the elementary constitutional law, teach them about the new dispensation, teach them about the property rights, because some of the issues are about property, teach them about their rights as individuals right there. That was the first assignment that we did, so that these are going to be our ambassadors even when we've left the place, because we're not going to always be stationed at that place. But past our time there, they are going to carry on the message that we taught them. So after that, then we organized at Sonko grounds a legal aid clinic whereby we pitched in. We partnered with Kituo cha Sheria, we partnered with Kelin, we partnered with Spida Kenya, we partnered with a lot of other sector players. Because as law students, we are not competent. In the Advocates Act, we are called unqualified persons to give legal advice. But when we partner with people and we are under them, so that we have a legal counsel who is there to give you advice, for us is to do the research. If the legal counsel is going to take up the matter to court, ours is to do the research. There are issues to do with contractual issues, and for us just to tell you, these are the rights of the parties, this is what happened, just paint that picture for you legally. So those are not matters that are going to be taken up to court. But at the moment, we have 12 live cases that are in court.
So, Dr. Lando, even as Collins is saying this, I mean, clearly, so this is clearly what you've learned, then you're able to apply when you're in the workspace. How do you see that this kind of legal education that is clearly taking into consideration everything that is happening today, how is it then going to shape the legal framework in this country, or at least contribute towards it? Because we've heard all kinds, I mean, open the door and anything flies in, right?
Yes.
So if we're looking at shaping the legal framework in this country differently, how is this all contributing towards that?
Okay, so the concept that we use at Riara Law School is called transformative learning. Okay, learning that makes students curious enough to explore on their own and to create new knowledge. Not learning that, where you go to school, you cram what is a contract and then you regurgitate it during the exam, and after the exam, you delete. That's what we used to happen in some schools somewhere, where you go, you cram all this stuff in your head just for exam purposes, and after that you're done with it. But for us, it's we say learning is a lifelong thing. You don't stop learning just because you have a law degree. So one is transformative learning that empowers you to transform your society, to transform the status quo. And also, secondly, is that we encourage our students to question things. We don't, in class, we don't, it's called what? We don't give notes. So, for example, when you had the first years coming in, they were asking, where are the notes? And I'm like, no, we don't give notes here. We give you reading material, you go read, come back, we'll have a discussion, and we'll have a chat. And if you're able to back up your argument with law, with facts, with sound arguments, then there's no wrong answer, so to speak. So we encourage our students to be curious, to see learning as a lifelong opportunity, so that they're able to then use those skills to resolve issues and problems that they encounter later. Okay, and even the way our exams are done, we do not... in education, there's something called the Bloom's taxonomy. It's a triangle where learning, there's the very basic learning at the bottom, and then there's higher level learning at the top. So basic level learning is like, for example, when you have a 2-year-old child who can recite for you 1 to 10, but they don't know what 1 is or 10 is.
Right.
They'll just sing-song it. But if at the higher level of thinking is where you can use different interrelated concepts and create new knowledge. So we encourage our students to use different concepts and create new knowledge, or apply it to resolve practical problems in society, and not necessarily just pass exams. So we do not train students to pass exams, so to speak. We train students to be global citizens, to be students of life, to be curious. So in terms of resolving and changing the legal the legal profession and the legal education platform, or the legal education space, we seek to use what is called transformative learning. It's a way of facilitating learning, which is more learner-led, as opposed to you have this lecturer who is the repository of knowledge and is spewing knowledge to you who know nothing. No, it's where we co-create knowledge. And so you find there are some times when a student asks you a question in class and you honestly do not know the answer. You will not lie to the student. You'll tell them, let's go research. I will research. Next class, come, let's have that discussion. So in terms of transforming the legal profession, slowly by slowly, bit by bit. And I know it's not only Riara that is doing it, because of the conversation I alluded to earlier with the legal education sector, the Council for Legal Education and the Kenya School of Law. There is a whole move to shift legal education in Kenya, to move from the traditional one where you had the lecturer standing as the repository of knowledge, to a different framework where the students are also participants and co-creators of knowledge. And hopefully it will transform the legal profession. Yes.
Yeah. Riara University is a fairly new university.
Yes.
Okay. So it puts them in a very unique position. One which I'm referring to is learning from the mistakes of others.
Yes.
Okay. The thought process that you're talking about, and I'm thinking of some of our older public universities who have had the institution of law in those universities for the longest time. Faculty of Law. And I'm thinking about what you're saying. And I'm thinking about implementing it. Not just with law. I'm thinking of all the disciplines that are offered. It is an exceedingly tall order. People don't change that easily. Now, It puts Riara in a very unique position, though. It puts Riara in a unique position because they're trailblazing. That trailblazing, how does it fit into the real world of the practice of law?
Yes.
And how successful is it?
And do you mind if I tag a question onto that?
Tag two.
Yes. In terms of the preparation of students,
yes.
Your approach seems to take the CBC approach. It seems to have the same kind of principles, as opposed to what we have now, which is more of the banking rote learning model.
Yes.
So in terms of the students coming in, what are you dealing with? And how well is this system being, I don't know, CBC has a lot of hiccups in how it's being implemented. But what are your thoughts about the preparation of students to be prepared for transformative learning? Yeah.
Okay. That's a tall order, but I'll try and remember his question.
I'm so sorry.
But I think I've gotten both of them. Riara University is fairly young compared to the other universities. We are going to celebrate our 10th anniversary in 2022. So next year is a big year for us. The law school has had, I think, about 4 batches graduating. And quite a number of our graduates are very successful in whichever endeavors they are doing. Some of them are in top law firms in Nairobi. We have, I think, 3 or 4. I know 2 who are in Harvard. They went on to do their masters in Harvard, and so on scholarship, not paying, but on scholarship, which means it speaks to the kind of products that we generate. Some are in academia. So in terms of market response, we are seeing that our graduates are being absorbed, as Collins has mentioned, almost 100% absorption rate. But of course, we don't have 300 students graduating at a go. So you also have to taper it with that. That if you're graduating 100 is easier to absorb in a market than 1,000. But yes, our students are being absorbed into the legal profession, and the feedback that you are getting is very positive. Now, again, we have the advantage of being a fairly young university. It's a private university, but we've also benefited from the Riara brand, because Riara University is part of Riara Group of Schools, which is more than 40 years, has been in existence for more than 40 years. So they have a very good backing in terms of education itself. And so when you now take it up a notch higher into higher education or university education or legal education, then they have an advantage of experience and of being in the industry for quite some time in terms of education. And then the decision-making processes are easier, as opposed to public universities, which may have several stakeholders and several processes to go through before taking decisions.
Doctor, it isn't processes, it is culture. Old private institutions have a culture. And that culture is what pervades everything and what determines everything. Yes.
But aren't they trying to change that culture by changing the education system?
They talk about wanting to change it. University learning in Kenya for the longest time has been traditional. Not much changes, and not much is allowed to be brought in to change it.
Yeah, but so what's the question? You're asking what Riara can do? Because they can trailblaze.
No. He's actually answering the question. I was just commenting. I had to quip in on that one there because you see, even the CBC system that you mentioned, Wanjiru, if you look at it, theoretically, this is something that is long overdue. An education system has to evolve with the times. Now, the question is, having evolved, do we have the mindset that we have to keep that mind open so that we can continue evolving it so that it actually meets the needs? You look at subjects that are taught in the institutions of higher learning. How vigorous and how robust are we in looking at these subjects and determine that, this subject used to be taught once, but it's in its current form, it's not very useful. We need to rejig it so that we can do all this one. Then let's just do this one completely. Yes, and bring something else. How often does that happen?
So, Collins, for you then, I mean, after having gone through a Riara education, if you were to, because I'm sure you have colleagues who went to other law schools who went to other universities and passed through a different system, a different way of doing things. If you were to do a comparative analysis, and of course I'm not asking you to name anything, but would you say that you are more advantageous because of the mode or techniques clearly that we've been explained to today?
Totally. I'd say that. Riara was not my first choice of a law school that I'd wanted to go to because of the age. And you'd see why and we faced that question the whole of the 4 years. We kept defending our choice of higher learning. Why did we choose to go to Riara University in its young state, quote unquote? But that is the best decision I have ever made in my entire life, choosing to go to Riara University Law School. When you talk about and I've talked about the delivery and I've talked about the fusion, when you get to the classroom, for instance, the student-teacher ratio that is there, I'm sure Dr. Lando knows all the students he has taught from first year, from the first time he started teaching in Riara University until now by name. And that is the intentionality that we have in Riara University. Because of the few students that we have in a class, it's so easy for a lecturer to be intentional with your growth. You know, there are universities that you are lumped up 1,000 students in a class, and the lecturer will never realize whether you attend class or not, even how you look like or your voice. They never realize that. For us, one, you're given 10 marks for class participation. So it puts you in a position whereby, after you've been told to go and read, you have to present what you've read, because this is going to contribute to your marks. When Dr. Lando was talking about transformative learning, and even the setting of the exams, you know, we are facing a big challenge as a country insofar as exam cheating is concerned, because we are teaching students to cram the content, and so that when the time comes for producing what you've crammed, it becomes difficult. So that's why you have to carry with you a Mwakenya for you to remind yourself. But you see, Riara, we have exams where you're doing it open book. You're allowed to come with your book. But let me tell you, the interest is not on the answer that you're going to give, or the answer that is in the book. The interest is on how you're going to fuse what you've been taught, what is in the book, merge it with what you're being asked to produce. And that, I think, that is what you're talking about, transformative learning. It's not just about duplication. You know, when you go to other universities or other institutions, it's about, they are like producing other books. They're like training small authors, because they are going to reproduce what has been already produced in other books. But for us, it's different. So when you talk about how different it is for those that have been from other universities, I think this came into play when I was in Kenya School of Law. And together we were doing assignments together, we had farms together, and you'd see the quality of work that they are doing. You'd see how strict they would be in things that maybe I'd not be strict in, or how I'd be strict in things that they would not take much serious or magnitude in them because of how the training that I've undergone. For instance, things to do with referencing. That is one thing that other institutions don't take seriously. For Riara University, I remember there is a unit that I got 0 in a cut out of 10 because I failed to reference. It is that serious. You cannot reproduce someone's work without giving credence to those people. So that is a basic thing that, I mean, that is personal story. That's a basic thing on how different we are with other institutions.
Okay.
Yeah. So just, I'd like to rephrase the question, and maybe, because I was trying to build on the point Siti was making about transformative learning is where we want to go. We have a culture problem. In terms of there's the old traditional way things have been done. What are the opportunities? You're talking about the Council of Legal Education, these discussions around the table. Right now we are having, linked to our issue, fiscal consolidation, where universities are being told to close their satellite clinics and all of that. In all that mix, where are the opportunities for us to put transformative education at the center? It sounds expensive to deliver because the student-teacher ratio is quite small. So what are the opportunities to get more in universities getting into this transformative education model?
Dr. Lando, if you could take that in a minute. Yeah.
Sure. COVID provided a very good opportunity for that, because we had to switch from face-to-face learning to virtual learning or digital learning. And so there is a move globally towards digital learning with the edX and the rest of the apps and the companies that are doing digital learning. So you have so many digital learning platforms. If you look at the stats, pre-COVID and post-COVID, the numbers have gone through the roof. And so universities have to retool, restructure, and ensure that they take up digital learning. We had a meeting, I think, on Tuesday at the university to just explore how we are going to take advantage of digital learning. And so transformative learning, when you link it up with digital learning tools, it helps to have the learning process more learner-led. Where, for example, in future you can have like a build your own degree thing, where if you want to do a law degree merged with IT, merged with communications, then you can build your own degree based on the online tools and presence that you have. And so digital learning is going to be transformative. It is the future of education, the future of learning, where you're going to have education being more internet-based, where learners can learn from wherever location they are in. We have had a taste of it through COVID. And so that provides a very useful tool. It is not so expensive because you don't have to invest so much in physical premises and everything. But you'd have to just, invest more on the startup. The initial cost would be a little bit high because of putting all those things on the platforms. But after that, the cost would taper down. So digital learning is a very good opportunity to engage in transformational learning because you can merge multidisciplinary things and ensure that you have the experts from whichever sector that you want. All in the virtual environment.
What about mindset?
There's interesting things going on, that's for sure. And at this point, we want to say thank you very much, Dr. Victor Lando, and also Collins Oluoch. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Exciting things happening for sure, and it would be very interesting to see how this shapes the future. Thanks for joining us in the Situation Room this morning. Asante Sana. On that note, taking a break on KTN Home and saying goodbye to our audience on KTN Home today. We will link up again tomorrow. Conversations continue on SpiceFM. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality.
We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokoh is Jeshi la Wokoh?
I can't say it very well, but you know, Jeshi la Wokoh.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation.
All right, it's coming around about to just a minute to 10 o'clock. And as we wrap up the show, CT, today's proverb as we conclude with that.
Asifuye mvua imemnyea. He who praises rain has been rained on. Collins clearly has been rained on.
Yeah, this rain
blessed him.
Rihanna rained on him, and he can't believe that such rain was actually possible and available. And he has put it very well. That's the thing about learning. When it impacts your life, it shows.
Indeed.
Because education is supposed to be transformative. Yes.
Thank you for keeping it the Situation Room this morning. We will be with you once again tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. And not to forget, keep it Spice FM as we continue with more music that you can enjoy through the day. Sugar and Spice comes in at 11 o'clock. And at 3 p.m., Spice Drive kicks off with Edward Quatch, and then the adults in the room will join you later, and we will be back again here tomorrow. For now, goodbye. It's 10 a.m.
Sugar and spice and everything I spice it.
spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The 7th Devolution Conference is expected to be officially launched today afternoon in Muthui, Makueni County, though it is not